World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
L-ewwel ħaġa bħala Gaming Malta l-esports huwa settur importanti ħafna għalina. Meta nħarsu lejn gaming ma nitkellmux biss fuq l-online gaming, imma il-video gaming u anki l-esports. L-esports huwa settur li internazzjonalment qed jikber ħafna u Malta għandha rol importanti wkoll x'tilab f'dan is-settur. Coming back to home, il-World Pro Racing hija kumpanija li dit mill-Maltin u qed tagħmel suċċess internazzjonali. Ġifieri Malta għalija hija pedina għal l-ambizzjonijiet tagħhom fuq pjan internazzjonali.
L-ewwel rrid insir Formula 1 driver u ngħaddi lil Lewis Hamilton bir-rekord tiegħu. U mbagħad wara rrid insir engineer.
Mela, t-tifel huwa professional driver diġà tal-go-karts, tella barra minn Malta nkajsu u training u hekk allura bejn telli oħra meta ma jkunux jistgħu jiċċessaw it-trek huwa tajjeb li jiġi hawnhekk jitrejnja hija simulator bħal go-kart qiegħed isuq l-istess trakka li jsuqgħu Malta lura jkun qiegħed training minflok jaġġa trakka stess. Għandu l-coach tiegħu tas-CRG stess jgħalmu jagħtu ħtiebs barra minn Malta l-istess ħaġa kalmuhom kif iduru mal-kantunieri, race line, il-ħinijiet x'in jafsu l-gass, il-break. Hija teknika ħafna l-ħaġa, ġifieri kapaċi ħafna iktar minn it-tifel. Huwa post fejn jista' jiżvoga. Meta jmorru ġa trakku ma stess jgħidulek aħna nħossuna żvogajna flaxej jħossuhom tranquilli għax ineħħu l-istress tal-ġurnata, l-istress tal-iskola, kollox. Plus li huwa sport sabiħ għalihom li jitrejnjaw. It-tifel trabba ġol karozzi, allura għalih hija passjoni. Dan iċ-ċentru għalih huwa post fejn jista' jiżvoga jkunu. Għal dawk il-parents forsi li jibżaw jgħidulek għax huwa perikolus. Hawnhekk m'hawnx periklu. Edin protetti, ġobini, it-tfal jaraw xiridu. Jekk ma jibdewx issa minn ta' żgħira xorta jibdew meta jkunu kbar, so ma jteżwelithom l-opportunitajiet kollha li tkun tista' tihom meta jkunu żgħar.
Jien ma' World Pro Racing naħdem bħala replay person u nsuq mat-tim ukoll. Main task jien normalment nagħmel nieħosib li l-computers kollha din jaħdmu, nieħosib li l-komunità għandna platform online li kollox qed immur sew anke nikkomunikaw ma' drivers u wara l-events nikteb l-artikli nippubblikawhom fuq il-website. Jien as such bdejt bħal kull student naqa' technical know-hows, imbagħad ovvjament through time bdejt nitgħallem kif ċertu pereżempju broadcasts, ċertu affarijiet, ċertu preparations li jsiru qabel dik regarding World Pro Racing anke bħala sim racing. Bdejt jien bħala e-sport jiġifieri aktar fuq computer, bdejt bil-mod nibni bħala steerings u hekk tracks tibda tidra bil-mod kollox pass issa.
PremiumBeat.com.
Office without limits. Slash your telco costs. Boost agent productivity and customer service. Web conferencing for all. Never miss a call. .3CX, everywhere you go, on premise or in the cloud. 3cx.com.
saħħalsulhom il-fuel para ġej.
Wara ftit ġranet kellna rebbieħ ieħor fil-logħba tagħna kontra 30 sekonda bil-maqlub. Suqu fuq ir-riserva xejdu le mhix se tieqaf.
Il-ġimgħa d-dieħla nkunu fuq pompa tal-enemed oħra nagħtu xi ħaġa oħra.
Senna was a god. No one could even dream to follow him.
I'm from a very humble background.
The role of women at that time were really difficult.
This is so dangerous. You are risking not only your life, but also my life.
Okay, we proceed to the start.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
Hang on. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome along to the Malta National GT3 Championship 2021, fueled by NMED and brought to you by the Malta Motorsport Federation. Well, we've already had 3 exciting and thrilling rounds so far, 2 of them being won by Mikael Murcia. He firmly puts himself at the top of the standings, and can he continue that momentum here into Lime Rock Park? A very, very fast circuit, fast, flowing, and with these fixed setups there's really no room for error. You have to get those medium speed corners absolutely right. Just over 1.5 miles around this circuit should be some quick lap times in these McLaren 720Ss. My name is Kieran McGinley. Joining alongside me, of course, is Nico Hillebrand. Nico, welcome along, welcome back. It's good to see you again, and hopefully we've got some good racing action with some pretty fast drivers at the top of the pointy end of the field.
Absolutely, Kieran. Glad to be back. We're looking at another fantastic round of this championship, and of course, Lime Rock Park. I described it last week as cage fighting a tiger, and I stand by that statement because it's just such a difficult and technical circuit, and as far as I've heard, we've got the no chicanes variant, so maximum speed, while also still being a very, very cramped circuit. I think we're looking towards a very, very interesting race today.
We are indeed, and that may make qualifying even more critical than it has been over the past few rounds. We've said how some circuits that qualifying is crucial because it's very narrow, there aren't many overtaking opportunities. When we come to Lime Rock Park, being at the front of the queue, Nico, seems to be like it needs to be the one you need. Maybe a little bit of slipstream down the Samposi Straight might help you in towards the Big Bend, I love that name, into turn 1, but there's no guarantees of that.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think especially just getting the position in qualifying, nowadays we have a lot of this, falling back before the last corner, and, like this long queues forming from Formula 1, because, let's face it, everyone copies it from that, even if it doesn't necessarily work with GT3 cars. But, you really need your space here, you really need your gaps from the get-go, not just from the last corner, because you have to carry so much momentum through not just the last, but also the second to last corner. Both of them very, very fast corners, and messing up a little bit there can already ruin your entire run.
It really can, and we've seen already, Nico, over the past 3 rounds that this chance to represent Malta in the FIA Motorsport Games, it means a lot. We saw from Mikael Murcia last week, he made it look easy. He was the coolest person in the World Pro Racing Simulation Centre, at least on the outside. He made it look easy last week, though, didn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just completely unfazed by everything going on, completely stone-cold face. But no, not emotionless, so to say, but, just completely relaxed, as if he was just on an afternoon drive, and as soon as he crossed the line, fist went up, and immediately that big smile coming across his face, so very, very fun to watch.
Oh, absolutely. We're in for some great stuff here tonight as well. And of course, if you're watching us on the Esports Television Network, Motorsport TV, TVM Sport, welcome along to tonight's action. And of course, if you're watching us on Facebook, on YouTube and on Twitch, a very warm welcome to you all as well. Hopefully, we're going to bring you some great racing action. Myself and Nico will be taking you through the races later on tonight. And of course, a big thank you as well to our sponsors in Gaming Malta, 3CX and Vibe as well. Nico, so far in this championship, we have seen Michael Murcia run away with it in the last 2 races at least, but there's that constant threat of Jason Muscat on his tail, just reminding him that he's got to keep his wits about him. As well as that, we've seen Sheldon Scott Muscat. Well, hopefully we'll see a little bit more from him as we approach the halfway mark in this championship. We'll have to wait and see. Obviously, we know if you've been watching World Pro Racing all this time, you'll know that Sheldon Scott Muscat is a quick driver. You know he's a talented driver as well. And I feel like so far this season, it hasn't really gone his way.
Yeah, absolutely. In Mills Metro Park, he had a very unfortunate accident and, just a spin in these very fast left-handers. And, let's hope that from now on he's going to get a lot more luck for this season. Especially since, the second half is still left.
Absolutely. So let's head over now to Malta. We're live in Malta as well at the World Pro Racing Simulation Facility. Let's go over and join Yaz, who's joined by Stephanie Kalaya. Yaz, good evening to you, all the way over in Malta.
Good evening, Kieran and Nicholas. Thank you. And good evening to everyone else. Welcome to the 4th round of the Multinational GT3 Championship, fueled by NMED. Tonight, I am joined by Stephanie Kalaya. Stephanie, how are you tonight?
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Steph, you're in the Malta Motorsport Federation. Can you tell us about that and about yourself?
Okay, so basically, as a child, I started going around with my father in his Mini Cooper S. Eventually, I also went on bike rides with him. I then eventually met my boyfriend, who's now my husband, who's also into cars. And we basically started with hill climbing. So we still race till today. And I race a Peugeot 205 GTI, and he has a Lotus. And now we have our daughter, who's now 8, also into go-karting.
Oh, sweet. And you said you do hill climbing. Can you explain a bit what that is?
That's basically it's a individual run, which is timed. Basically, you have a practice run, you have 3 runs, and you go up a hill on your own, and you try to compete with your own time.
So it's timed. It's not like a race like we're doing here in the studio. It's quite a different world for you because it's not gaming. What do you think about what's going on in the studio tonight, the sim racing?
It's a different world for me, but from the looks of it, it seems to be catching on pretty well. So I think for the youngsters today, being that they're into gaming and they've got their PCs, it's a different world, and I think it's a good opportunity for them to try, and eventually, should they be interested in racing, in an actual car, it gives them that opportunity.
What about you? Are you interested in trying some racing?
I wouldn't say no, but it's something worth giving a shot at the end of the day. So, like my daughter is into go-karting, I would encourage her to give it a go. Practicing, she would be able to practice as well. And, one thing could lead to another. You never know, because obviously it's a big platform.
It's obviously a much safer way to race, being that she's quite young. Can you tell us a bit about your daughter?
Okay, so she's 8, going to be 9, and she sort of followed our footsteps without us giving a big push. And she liked go-karting, which we now just started. And not long ago, I started saying about, being the fact that you have to go to the track every time, it might not be possible. So you could also go on to like the simulators, give it a try, and you train over there. And then eventually you get used to going onto the track and knowing what you're going to see.
That's a good opportunity, you're right. And going back to you, do you drive on a daily basis? How often do you practice?
Practice is not. I don't practice as much as I would like to because we don't have.
Stopped a bit, yeah.
Yes, I stopped because obviously I had my daughter, and priorities were put in a different way. No, but we don't have where to practice as per se. So this would be a good opportunity, like to come here. I know that there are certain tracks that the simulators have, and you would practice it, and you can race, or even go onto the track and try it there.
So obviously you're a woman in motorsport. Can you tell us a bit what that's like? Any positive or negative feedback or comments?
Okay, so if I had to go back a number of years ago, at the beginning it wasn't very easy because, as we unfortunately all know, it's a man's world. But however, it didn't stop me from doing what I wanted to do. So it's something that I always liked. So I always had an interest in driving and in racing, and just do what you have to do and just go for it. I had also the support of my parents and my husband, so so I was very blessed in that way then.
Very nice. So speaking on women in this industry, we're now going to cut to a video of Raisa Psaila, who is a young woman who is just starting sim racing. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Raisa Psaila, and today was my first time training at World Pro Racing. My experience was really good. Not saying that I didn't have any mistakes, but after all, we need to learn from them. I really wish that I will see more women in this industry, because after all, women and men are both equal. Women are also capable to do this type of sport. Thank you.
Follow Race's journey getting into sim racing and motorsport by following us on our social media at World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
Very sweet video of Raisa Psaila. She is 13 years old. She just started sim racing. She's obviously someone to look up to. Steph, do you have any comments on that video?
It's very good to see a 13-year-old, wanting to give it a try. And yes, I do agree that we should encourage the youngsters, be it male or female, at the end of the day. But again, we have to push a bit more to the females, because females just have the same opportunity as a male does.
For sure. Join with us now is Simon. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Do you have any comments to add on that video of Raisa Psaila?
I'm pretty much going to echo what Stephanie just said. I think it's great to see young people of any gender, but specifically young women, taking up the mantle and pushing themselves into racing. It is a very male-dominated sport, so the more diversity we can get, the better.
Yeah. Simon, as well, I'd like to ask you, can you please give us a little roundup of the previous rounds of the championship?
Of course. So we're obviously this is round 4, and we've had 3 very different races. Round 1 was kind of a nice introduction. We had a little bit of drama. There was some spins at the beginning, but it was ultimately a more quiet race. Bernard Vella got the lead at the beginning of the race and kind of just held on to it. Sheldon Scott Muscat put on a great fight, but couldn't really keep up towards the second half. The second race is where the chaos happened. We had a lead. The race winner didn't lead a single lap, as the person who technically crossed the line in first got a penalty and was dumped back to second. And so Michael Murcia drove a great race. He was very consistent. He was always within that gap to profit from Jason Muscat's penalty. But it was also like a race. He wasn't really. You couldn't have guessed he was going to win after lap 1. He was bumped off the lead, even though having the pole. He was then spun around and was dumped, I think, to 5th or 6th in the end. We had, I think, 4 different race leaders throughout it. Abeyer had it, Bernard Vella had it, Jason Muscat had it. Neither of them won. Neither of them could make to the end. It was Michael Murcia who came in and just was in the right place at the right time to profit. And in the third race, we had kind of the exact opposite. It was a very dominant victory for Michael Murcia, taking his second in a row, leading every single lap. He was absolutely on it from day one. He led every session, and he had the pace throughout it. And behind him, there was a great battle for third, but it was the same podium as the previous race. Jason Muscat getting another brilliant second place, and Bernard Vella getting his third podium of the championship so far.
Would you like to add anything, Steph?
Basically, as I was saying, there are a number of Maltese that are into simulators, and I think it's a very good start to see. So yes, as you were saying, basically there's a lot of going on, and as you said, like Michael Muscat just took over.
Yeah, and he's got a great foothold in the championship for 2 wins. He clearly had the pace in the first race as well. Obviously, a bit of misfortune sending him back. So yeah, I think he's one to watch. But also we have Jason Muscat, who's been consistent, and Bernard Vella. He won the first race, and he's been on the podium twice. He's also very much in this fight.
So they're 3 good fighters.
Definitely, yes. And it's good. We want that. We want a very close championship. We want a very close racing.
So, Steph, thank you for joining us tonight. For myself, I would like to ask a couple of questions to the commentators. So, Kieran, if you shall, would you like to tell us a bit about your commentary experience in both sim racing and in real motorsport, and also your commentary career with World Pro Racing?
Well, where do we begin with that? Well, I first started all the way back in November, was it 2019 now? Probably 2018, actually. Long time ago, and I started on the official Formula One games. It would have been F1 2017, so it was around about 2017 that I first started getting there. So, yeah, I've been around for a little bit of time, and yeah, I've just been shouting over a mic, and people have seemed to like it, and it's just got better and better and better. So, here I am today. I first got into World Pro Racing about half a year ago now, maybe 7 months ago. It was Gran Turismo, and it was actually on board with Nico over there. We were covering the last round of the championship, I believe, and I just slotted in, took the last round away, and that was that. And so this partnership has blossomed. I really hope, Nico? But yeah, that's a little bit about me. I've been to some motorsport tracks in real life as well. So I've been to Brands Hatch, I've been to Snetterton, I've been to Thruxton, and I've been to Cadwell Park. So yeah, they're slowly building that portfolio. And as I said, I've just been shouting in a box at things that go fast, and people seem to like it. So hopefully, long may it continue, Yaz.
And your commentary career with World Pro Racing.
Right. Can you quickly repeat the question? Sorry.
I'm sorry. Can you tell us about your real driving experience and also in sim racing? Also, your commentary career in World Pro Racing.
Right. I was actually quite a late starter in real motorsports, starting at age 12, basically 13, which allowed me then to instantly go from kart to auto slalom, basically immediately, which is in essence a bit similar to what Steph is doing with hill climb racing. It's timed runs, so you're alone on track, just have to get the fastest time in and not knock over any cones or lose your way, because that's going to give you a lot of penalty seconds and stuff. But yeah, I've been doing that for I think 5-6 years. Went to German National Championship with that and got into top 10 there, so quite proud of that. And then in 2019, I got to take part in 4 touring car races in the Chevrolet Cruise Euro Cup, which I finished 3 of on the podium, so that was also quite cool. Sim racing basically came for me as a substitute for real racing at the start, because I just didn't have the money to go into real touring car racing and all that, or kart racing and stuff. So started there, then, through the pandemic especially, a lot more professional things like the SRO got involved. So I got to represent Ferrari as a manufacturer last year, and this year I joined the HPD Esports Academy for Honda. So yeah, it's been going great. And commentary-wise, well, I've been here for almost a year now, basically at World Pro Racing, and all I can say is it's been a blast, Started obviously with Jake Sperry way back in the day, and then, for the same championship, the final race, this guy came along, and yeah, we've had a great time ever since.
Thank you to both of you, and well done as well to both of you. I think we're gonna start the practice now. Yes.
So practice here underway then at Lime Rock Park, and you can just see they get airborne, Nico. They fly. These drivers will be having flying lessons by the end of this. That is quite a sight to see.
Absolutely. I mean, when Nathan came in here before, we started the broadcast and everything and said, these guys, they take off over the crest. I thought, it would be a little bit of like a small wheelie or something, but absolutely not. No, sir.
No, sirree. You're just expecting someone to be beside you saying V1, rotate. just as you get over the crest there. Well, at the moment, though, just into this session, we've got Dean Vella, who's topping the timing sheets with 46.5 seconds. Yeah, that's it. That's all it takes for a lap around here. So we are pretty much expecting, over a half-hour race, we're expecting 35, maybe even 40 laps. Just amazing how they just absolutely fly. And they always almost land with their rear wheels down. Now, Nico, I know Lime Rock's not really a place where you normally go racing, but surely a car getting airborne like that, with these fixed setups, how do you approach that as a driver?
Well, basically just try to get the car rotated as much as possible before you go to that crest. I'm quite interested to see how it'll pan out in a race situation when we have dirty air in the mix as well, where, you don't have the front generating downforce, so... Just look at that.
It's
absolutely
amazing.
Majestic.
Majestic is the word for it. It is. That's the uphill section. Then they go on towards the back straight, then in towards downhill and towards the west bend before they make their way into the aptly named diving turn as Jason Muscat runs slightly wide and just about keeping that just about in shape as he now makes his way just towards that pit lane on the Sam Posey straight. There is Bernard Vella, already a race winner here in this series. At the very first round, when we went to Zandvoort, he managed to get second place, get the lead, and hold on. And he really did do a really good defensive job. He's just set his personal best of the session at a 46.984, which puts him 0.07 off of the fastest time so far by the number 9 of Dean Vella. Then it's the two-time race winner, Mikael Murcia, in third place, just over 1/10 off of the leader's pace right now. It's Bernard Vella, you can see there, in fourth place, Kirsten Abea in fifth, Sheldon Scott Muscat in sixth, Andrea Rizzo in seventh place, Gianluigi Corral in eighth, and then it's Colin Foster rounding off our top 9 drivers. And I have to say, Nico, all drivers separated by 1.5 seconds. It's the closest we've seen these drivers so far, which is very, very good to see. We're actually going to head back to Malta. We've got 2 of the drivers going for an interview, so let's join them now.
Hello everybody, my name is Davinia Juice and I'm here with Andrea Rizzo for a quick interview before he starts the actual race. How are you tonight, Andrea?
I'm feeling good. Hopefully it will be a very good race. My first good race of the championship, because the first 3 races were a bit so and so.
You don't have a sim rig at home. How do you feel about that? Do you feel there is a disadvantage that you might have during the race with other competitors?
Well, a disadvantage a bit, yes. Maybe someone else can practice more at home and then be a bit advantaged as he got more practice than me. But I come here a lot, so I can train also, so it's a good thing that we have work to train those who do not have a simulator at home. Like this facility at World Pro Racing, it's good to have somewhere to train.
And do you feel prepared for today's race? Did you train enough?
Well, I couldn't this week, so I was a bit busy, so now during practice I try to get as much laps under my belt, hopefully for a good qualifying and a good race.
What do you think about today's track, Lime Rock?
It's short. It's a short lap, less than a second, about 46, I think. So there is not much room for error. The error is more, if you make a mistake, it's more of a disadvantage. So you have to be precise, because there is not much places where you can make mistakes.
Thank you very much and good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, talking to us there, I think that was Andrea Rizzo talking to the down at the World Pro Racing Simulation Centre. And yes, Andrea Rizzo is one driver who doesn't have a simulation at home. The only place he could train, is somewhere gets very wide and very wild in through the Big Bend, through the S's there. That's a point as well, Nico, that he hasn't had a lot of chance to train and a lot of chance to practice going into tonight's race. So really, this is his first practice session, and to be within a second of Jason Muscat, that's not bad going.
Yeah, absolutely it isn't, and especially considering, this track is very, very short, so of course, the gaps will be a bit smaller than, for example, at Estoril, where we were last week. But still, considering everything, this just relentless way through the entire lap, you constantly have to be perfectly on the line. One little slide and it's already a 10th gone because you have to carry all that momentum. It's really commendable how everyone is within 1.6 seconds, and especially the top 4 within 1.5 tenths. And Jesus, look at Kirsten Weyer actually not rotating the car enough and actually holding onto it in the grass.
Yeah, and that can't do the car a lot of good because, of course, once you get back onto the grass, you got all that dirt on your tyres, which was making him light up the rear tyres as he was heading through the West Bend. You could clearly see that back end was just flying out of control, then down the Sam Posey straight in towards the Big Bend and this long right-hander which keeps going on and on and on. One thing you'll quickly notice though is how there's a lack of any track limits as Kirsten Weyer picks up the grass. Let's go back down to the World Pro Simulation Centre for an interview with Colin Foster.
We're here again now with Colin Foster. Colin, how are you feeling tonight?
Not too bad, thank you.
Great. And I know that you do not have a sim rig at home, so where do you race? Where do you train for the races?
I normally just have to watch clips on YouTube for the particular track of the week. So.
And do you feel that you are in a disadvantage compared to other players?
For some of them, yes. Yeah, I definitely do.
And how do you feel about today's track?
It's very hilly. There's one bit you almost take off on. Other than that, it's quite quick, so it should be a challenge.
Great, good luck. I wish you the best of luck. Thank you.
And Colin Foster there saying slightly airborne going in towards the uphill. It's literally called the uphill. I'm not making that up. Oh, as Andrea Rizzo gets a clip of the grass there and sends the car for a spin. There's Corral getting a little bit airborne as well, going over the uphill. And then making his way then on towards the back straight through the West Bend and taking a little bit of grass with him. It is a very challenging circuit, this. It's more than meets the eye as Corral comes flying around diving turn.
Yeah, absolutely. And you saw that earlier, just as he came along that. You can't just really afford getting too far on the outside because immediately there's grass. There's no tarmac runoffs here whatsoever. You really just have to watch out the entire time that you just stay perfectly on the line. If you go take a bit too much curb, like Corral took just now through the diving turn, immediately that curb will spin you around as well. And Jesus Christ, just looking at it from the downhill camera and then uphill camera as well, like just through the uphill, just absolutely crazy to see the angle of attack that car gets.
Yeah, and you can see the ever cool, the ever emotionless Mikael Murcia has just set the second fastest lap time in this practice session, having gone the fastest through the second sector. And the sectors here, well, they're not very long at all. I mean, if you're covering a lap here of 46 seconds, then that's max amount of time between each sector. I mean, it's just such a quick track. You really haven't got any chance to blink around here, have you?
Yeah, not really. And I mean, especially if the room would be hot, at home right now, then wiping sweat would become a bit of an issue because you don't really have straights to do that.
No, you don't. It just looks full on, just from maybe not from Murcia's point of view because he looks as cool as ever. On towards the Sam Posey straight we go and towards the start-finish line, and just like that, 46.7, which puts him 0.3 of a second off of that. If he set that lap originally, that would have put him in 4th place. That just shows you how really, really tough it's going to be coming up to this qualifying session. We are still in practice. We've got 22 minutes to go, and at the moment it's the number 10 of Jason Muscat who leads this practice session. Currently he's just gone purple through Sector 1, the fastest of anyone so far, as he now makes his way through the Big Bend, over the uphill, and then back onto the back straight here. Just flying through the West Bend, then back down the hill we go through the final quarter at diving turn, again keeping just as close to that grass on the left hand side of the picture as possible, onto the Sam Posey straight, purple through Sector 2. This should be and could be the fastest lap of this practice session, and it will be. 46.329 ever extends his advantage in this practice session. But Nico, we've been here before. We've been through many World Pro Racing qualifying sessions. We've even been through many of these specific Multinational GT3 Championship practice sessions. You've got to try and hold your cards as close to your chest, and maybe for Jason Muscat, he's proving that the race pace is on his side.
Yeah, maybe, but I think at the moment people are also doing, a bit of qualifying practice still, simply because, quite honestly with you, the main overtaking spot on this entire circuit will probably be the Big Bend, just after you go down the Samposi Straight. So just really keep it together through West Bend, then diving turn, and then try to get as much slipstream as possible down the Samposi Straight into the Big Bend on the brakes. And, everyone having the same car, same setup and all that, you know, it'll be quite difficult to overtake around here, especially when you have, all the guys just on their edge and not making any mistakes. But of course, when you're in a longer train, you really have to watch out that you don't make any mistakes.
With a shorter lap means more distance or more laps covered over this. Now, we've seen how tyre wear can affect the cars. We saw it at Zandvoort as well, how the tyre wear can really have an effect on how well the car performs and ultimately how much it can handle. At a track like Lime Rock, really tyre wear is probably one of the last things on your mind, having gone airborne for about a tenth of the lap going through the uphill. But what are the effects you could think of, or what are the effects you could have in this in the race when we come towards the last 10 minutes, Nico, with this tyre wear?
I'm actually quite wondering at this point, you know, obviously, you know, the taking off at the uphill, you know, that's going to save some tyres, you know. The tyres aren't touching the ground, the tyres aren't rubbing, so you know, must be saving them a bit. But quite honestly, with 40 laps around here, you know, and constant tyre wear on this thing, I'd almost say, you know, the pit lane isn't very long here. Maybe, just maybe, it would actually be worth it to perhaps like think about a pit stop as well. Like if you are perhaps like starting a bit further back, you know, and the pit lane isn't that long, the tire change is normally not that long. As long as you don't refuel and all that, then perhaps it is worth a consideration.
Worth a thought, food for thought as well as we head in towards the halfway point in this classified practice session. We've still got 19 minutes left on the clock for these drivers to hone in their setups, or I say setups, hone in their racing lines and hone in whatever goes. We'll see how everything goes. But at the moment then, Sheldon Scott Muscat. Now, this is a driver. We were expecting big things from him. You know, when he came into the championship at the first round, you know, he struggled. And he struggled really throughout the entire series. It's not representative of what we know of this Sheldon Scott Muscat.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's also been hit by quite bad luck, you know. The DNF at Estoril was very bad luck, you know, having that misfortune of, forgetting to adjust race fuel. Quite difficult, of course, and, yeah. But honestly, I think that's also a bit of the problem with jumping between simulators, simply because, speaking from first-hand experience, you need such a different driving style for rFactor 2 compared to Assetto Corsa Competizione, for example. And then the exact same would appeal for, iRacing and also Gran Turismo Sport, and yeah, there was a little bit too much on the West Bend there.
Yeah, as you see there, hands instantly off the wheel. There is absolutely no chance you're having that on the wheel, especially in these cars. And that's something that's real life has brought to sim racing. If you get yourself into spin and you head into the wall, chances are you'll probably want to take your hands off the steering wheel, even if it's a sim, because that force feedback can bite back.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially on higher torque wheels, you know, like direct drive wheels and all that. I've heard quite a few stories of, people breaking their wrists on that. But also, you know, single fingers being broken by just normal consumer wheels, like from Fanatec or Thrustmaster as well.
Yeah.
Then, there's just a very sudden impact. And of course, you know, the steering wheel, 8 Newton meters of torque is still quite a lot.
It is. And, yeah, as you say, injuries can occur, especially in wrists, in hands, where just like in real life, if you were to hold onto the wheel and it was suddenly to jolt left or right unexpectedly, that's going to do you damage as well. Colin Foster making his way around the final corner through diving turn and onto the Samposi Straight and across the start-finish line. 1.3 seconds so far off of the lead pace, and this is pretty much the closest we've seen these drivers all season long. So this is an encouraging sign, Nico.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, the gap has gone down, despite Muscat actually improving quite a bit. So, everyone within 1.4 seconds. Quite honestly, I'm very hopeful for today, having even more guys involved in the front fight than last time around, and than for Mills Metro Park even, where we had, randomly a 5-way battle for the lead going on.
Absolutely, and Bernard Vella has just set his personal best of the session. It bumps him now up into 5th place, right behind the number 9 of Dean Vella. And if you're wondering there, yes, number 9 is Dean Vella, number 4 is Bernard Vella. That's how you can tell the difference between the two drivers. And then, of course, the number 10 of Jason Muscat, the number 7 of Sheldon Scott Muscat. That's how you can tell the difference between the two there, as Bernard Vella gets a little bit sideways just going through the uphill section. That is not a place where you want the rear end to be stepping out on you.
Yeah, absolutely. Really, really difficult. But once again, also towards the back, another improvement from Foster within 1.2 seconds. So really, it's getting quite interesting. And also, of course, you know, Rizzo is finding an improvement, and Dean Vella also finding a bit of an improvement. And now Sheldon Scott Muscat as well, finding a bit of a breakthrough.
I mean, this is going to be very, very intense going in towards the qualifying session, which I can confirm is not too far away. Kirsten Bayer getting the tyres in all sorts of shapes there, getting onto the grass as well. Not many places where you can run the car wide if you make a mistake. There is just grass. And even in some of the corners, there's a little bit of curb. You've got a little bit of tarmac there just before the uphill, but that is not very big, and there's a massive tyre wall right to your left-hand side. So that's not somewhere you really, really want to be going off the track. But I can confirm to you now the practice session is coming to an end, and you can see there the number 10 of Jason Muscat is at the top of the table by less than 0.2 of a second ahead of Mikhail Murcia in that number 11 car. Well, that just shows you our 9 drivers are separated by 1.1 seconds. The top 10 separated by 1 second. Well, I can't wait for qualifying, see how this all turns out, see how it all figures out.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it should get quite interesting, and especially, it's not just about what your personal best can be on the optimal lap, it's what you can get together on that lap. So it's going to be very, very difficult, especially at Lime Rock Park, you know. You can only do like shorter attack runs, so to say. And, you know, with that short of a lap, obviously you're going to have a short out lap, but, you know, you're also going to have to find the gap. And on this circuit, you know, 2.4 kilometers with 9 cars on the track, it's already going to be a bit crowded.
It is. It really, really is. But I have to say, it's going to be an intense qualifying session, whatever happens, because you're going to have low fuel and you're also going to have the tyres as well. I mean, you won't burn through tyres in 1 lap or maybe 2 laps, because you're getting to a circuit, Nico, where there's a lot of throttle. And where there's a lot of throttle, it means you're going through a bit of fuel as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fuel burning, it's, well, it's not just because, you know, you're on throttle quite a lot. This is also a rather big V8 engine in the back of this thing. So, you know, obviously for longer races here and, you know, distance-wise longer races, not just time-wise, you know, you're gonna need more fuel. So, yeah, quite difficult, of course. And we actually have someone joining us for the race in the commentary box as well.
We do indeed. It's Simon, all the way in Malta. This is going to be a bit of a bizarre experience, but Simon, how are you this evening?
Hello, I'm doing great, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you. And Simon, have you been tempted to try one of these simulators yet? What's it like down at the simulation centre?
Currently, many drivers sitting in neon-lit sim rigs, so very aesthetic. Yeah, I would love to try it myself one day, but I haven't had the opportunity just yet.
Sneak in after this event. We'll let you. Nico and I are vouch for you. But yeah,
we'll wait for the cameras to be off. Don't tell my boss.
I won't tell if you won't tell. That's fine. But looking at this Lime Rock Park, obviously it's a very narrow circuit. I've been discussing with Nico that there's not really a lot of chance to really blink or breathe at this track. I mean, it's such an intense one.
Definitely. It should be interesting to see like which drivers can make the most of the conditions on the track and which ones maybe struggle a bit. But judging from practice, they seem very, very close. So it should be an exciting qualifying and race, hopefully.
And of course, we've got Mikhail Murcia. Have you had a chance to speak to him before tonight's race? Because he looks as cool as ever. Well, we saw him on the cameras here as he's just gone quickest, 46.8.
I haven't had a chance to speak to him tonight. Some behind-the-scenes knowledge. He was stuck in traffic and came maybe 10 minutes before the practice session started. So he was a bit under pressure, but he seems to be doing great.
Seems to be going Yeah, it seems to be going great so far. He did have the fastest lap until Kirsten Abea came along and stole it with the 46.5. Still a long way to go in this qualifying session, of course, as the cars, once again, we show them go airborne as they make their way through the uphill section as Murcia comes back to the pit. New fastest lap time from Jason Muscat, 46.475, now puts him at the top of the table as Murcia comes back out onto track. There is your provisional pole sitter so far in Jason Muscat. Nico, I'm expecting that pole position time to be chopping and changing every lap that passes.
I mean, the fastest that we've had so far in practice here was 46.3, if I recall correctly just now. So, there's at least another 10 minutes for Jason Muscat, so I'm quite curious to see how the others will actually try to find time now, and if they will be able to find that time. And Sheldon Scott Muscat actually improves his personal best as well, because we saw him 4.5 tenths off. Now, he's actually improved by a tenth in P5, with only 2.5 tenths off of the current fastest lap.
And the current fastest lap is held by Jason Muscat. There's Andrea Rizzo, who's currently out there, and he was just talking to us about his time. And of course, he hasn't got a simulator to hand at home, so this is his only place to practice. And he didn't get a chance to practice this week. And I mean, Simon, what was his body language? You've obviously seen him today. How's he looking? How's he feeling?
I imagine it's kind of a lot more difficult when you don't have like a personal sim rig, but he seems to be doing okay. He seems to be confident with his abilities. Even if he's not like racing right at the sharp end, I do think he has a chance of scoring some good points and being well within the midfield.
Absolutely, and I mean, Kirsten Abeya as well. We haven't spoken a lot about him in this series so far. He's been a little bit under the radar, Simon. What have you made of his season so far?
Well, you mustn't forget, he was leading the second round at one point, so he's kind of like one of those sleeper hits really right now. He's currently in second place, 87 milliseconds off pole. He is very competitive right now, so it would be good to keep an eye on him throughout this race and the rest of the season.
I have to say as well, Andrea Rizzo has gone purple through Sector 1. He hasn't had a chance to practice all week. This is pretty much his first day in the sim at this track, and he's gone purple through Sector 1. He might actually be one to watch out for, Nico.
Yeah, absolutely. I was about to say, not just, a little bit faster, but 2 tenths faster in the purple sector, and just absolutely crazy, just out of nowhere. But then a little bit of a slide through the big bend, or I think actually the exit through the S's, so was able to hold on to it, and despite all that wiggling about, still faster last sector, and again purple in the first sector, but then half a second slower in Sector 2, so I think if he really cleans up his act through Sector 2, he could really be someone to watch out for here.
He really, really could. And, obviously we were talking about, and he was talking about how he hasn't had a lot of chance to practice. In fact, no practice at all this week. So being thrown into the rig as his first time in practice, being his first time out onto this track in this car, that's very, very commendable, being half a second within Jason Muscat's time. And Simon, obviously, Sheldon Scott Muscat, as World Pro familiars might know, that he should be at the pointy end of the field, but it just hasn't been his season yet, has it?
It really hasn't. He's been kind of through misfortune mostly. He has retired from the last 2 races. But if you look back to the first race, he, I believe, got pole position and then finished second place. So he definitely has the pace. He definitely can fight at that sharp end. It's just about getting the luck right when he needs it.
Yeah, and of course the refueling error last round ago, really put a dent in his momentum, really going in towards that round. But 4th fastest at the moment, within 2 tenths of a second. He looks like he wants to bounce straight back.
Yeah, that fueling error is not really his fault. Very unusual, but an unfortunate mistake to make. Whether it was on his side of the games, regardless. As for today, within 2 tenths, he definitely has a chance to be fighting up there. And it is a shorter circuit, so like the lap time gaps are maybe a bit more skewed, but 2 tenths is 2 tenths. He's still very much, although I think it's 3 now. He's still very much on the pace and could potentially sneak onto the top 3.
Yeah, because Jason Muscat has just now set a 46.3, which is now 2 tenths clear of any other driver. Kirsten Abeya currently holding on to the other part of the front row of the grid. There is Mikael Mercher, who's gone green through Sector 1, so that's his own personal best for the session so far. Flying his way now through the uphill and now back onto the back straight in towards the West Bend. And now goes purple through Sector 2, through the West Bend. Down the hill we go in towards Diving Turn. Through this long right-hander, clip of the curb, kiss of the curb on both sides as he makes his way charging towards the start-finish line. Is this going to be an improvement from 6th place? It is, and it's now 5th fastest within 3 tenths of a second. Sheldon Scott Muscat now going up to 2nd fastest. I mean, Nico, these lap times are going quicker than I can speak at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely, and I mean, it's really, really difficult, obviously, to gauge how this will affect the race pace, like how the full fuel car will actually affect them, because of course there's different driving styles. For example, with Mikel Mejia, we have seen that he's really, really friendly with the tires, so he can last these 30 minutes without any major drop-off of pace. And Jason Muscat was one of the guys who had actually more problems with tire wear at Estoril, so maybe his strategy is just, you know, qualifying at the front row, qualifying on P1, and, you know, obviously having a bit of an advantage there, as Mejia goes up to 3 now. You know, just trying to keep the entire field behind him, and then at least for, well, the first half of the race, just try to keep the guys behind him, try to keep it slower, try to save tires, and then just around the west bend diving turn, throw everything out, go down the Semposi straight with maximum speed possible, and then just go back to blocking and trying to save the tires a little bit, you know? If he keeps that up, that could be a valid strategy for the race win here.
I mean, when we're talking about this track in particular, Nico, the Lime Rock Park, it's been relatively, the circuit layout at least, has relatively been unchanged since 1957. That's so odd for circuits because they go through these safety changes, mean they might have to be slowed down, there might have to be a chicane inputted here, there might have been a hold change, just like Spa-Francorchamps turning from a, you know, 15-kilometre plus behemoth down to the 7 kilometres we all know and love today. But Lime Rock Park has been relatively unchanged throughout its entire history. That's quite an odd one for a circuit in that form.
Absolutely, not just in that regard, but you can see how close the spectators are standing to the track. And, you know, I think that's just one of the big charms of, you know, some of the American racetracks, because the guys over there, over the pond, it's really still completely different. How these guys handle with complete circuit safety and all that stuff, as we see Andrea Rizzo go a little bit too wide there, but improving by a 10th, so, you know, still staying quite sharp on his end.
He really is, just over 0.4 of a second off of the pole position time from Jason Muscat. And I suppose as well that the times are so close together, Simon, is because there really aren't many heavy braking zones where you can start to lose that time. It's all about a sense of bravery at how fast you can take these corners.
Definitely, you know, you need to flow from one corner to the other. So I do think consistency is where these drivers are getting their speed. And from the looks of it, they seem to be relatively evenly matched. Like the top 5 are covered by effectively 2 tenths only, and that's nothing.
It's a blink of an eye, isn't it? Something like that? A couple of blinks of an eye? That'll do to cover our top 5, but there's Sheldon Scott Muscat, currently P2 in this qualifying session. It is immensely close because it's 0.004 of a second separating, well, it was 0.004 of a second. It's 0.014 seconds separating the pole position time as Mikel Mejia now goes second fastest and puts himself onto the front row of the grid. Sheldon Scott Muscat going green through the first sector, his personal best so far as he flies through the west bend. Down the hill we go, slight clip of the grass then, you can hear him yell. He's pretty frustrated with that one. He's gone purple through sector 2, but this could be a lap time here. He might have just cost himself in the final sector. We're about to find out as he crosses the line. Yep, no improvement there, but there is an improvement from number 9 of Team Vela. You're absolutely right. Now 46.354 is the lap to beat, 0.005 of a second quicker than Jason Muscat.
Where did that come from? And now again, 1.4 tenths faster. What is that?
What is that indeed? Well, we come down towards the second sector. Let's see what Dean Vela can do. He's slightly off the pace in the second sector, but only by 0.068, which means he's pretty much on course to try and take away even more time away from everybody else. Let's follow him through then as he makes his way on towards the start-finish straight. Let's see what this lap time's going to be. Is it going to be an improvement from a 46.354? Not this time around. All that time he gained in the first sector, he eventually lost in the second and third.
Same time, I think Sheldon Scott Muscat also quite confident in his ability. I think that, you know, visible scream just now, that was through West Bend, just barely outside of the track limits, and, you know, obviously very, very eager to get going again, and, yeah, but Dean Vela just out of nowhere, absolutely incredible. What do you say about that, Simon?
If you look at the lap times, it's 5 milliseconds faster. So if he could have gotten that final lap put together, he would have set himself up great for the last few minutes. But as is, it is so close. There is less than a tenth between the top 3, and it kind of bodes well for the race. Like, if they keep this pace up into the race, we're going to be seeing a very close battle.
Absolutely. And, you know, just between, well, less than a 1/5 of a 10th of a second. These are numbers that aren't really properly realizable. Like there's nothing really that comes to comparison, I think, when you're just thinking that they're just normally these kinds of numbers. Just everyday thinking, you know a couple of seconds apart. I don't know. For example, like how fast you blink, it's like a tenth or something, as far as I remember. And then just a fifth of a tenth of a second, just absolutely crazy.
And if you think about it in perspective, it takes, I think, like 0.6 of a second to realize an action from like when you think of it in your mind to actually doing it. This is 5 milliseconds, a fraction of a fraction of that.
Kirsten Abeya.
What?
46.195 from Kirsten Abeya now puts him at the top of the pecking order. We're getting ever closer to that 45-second mark. Here comes Murcia towards the line, who improves on his lap time, but not enough to grab back pole position. Well, this is your last chance to grab the popcorn. It may already be too late as we head into the last 70 seconds of this qualifying session. So far, it's Kirsten Abeya who's on provisional pole position for this race for round 4 at Lime Rock Park. It's Mikael Murcia in second place, and then it's the number 9 of Dean Vella rounding off the top 3. Jason Muscat in 4th place. It's Sheldon Scott Muscat in 5th place. Murcia goes fastest through the first sector. He goes green through the second sector as he makes his way now out of the West Bend. Down the hill we go then, through in towards this long right-hander as we make our way now towards the end of the lap, towards the start-finish line. Can Murcia improve to try and take back pole position? No, he can't, and he backs out of it, so that's his qualifying session over. Kirsten Abeya, first place at the moment. Sheldon Scott Muscat out there at the moment. He's within 0.04 of a second of this pole position time. Kirsten Abeya is back into the pit. He can't improve on that lap time. Bernard Vella currently 0.5 tenth off of that lead time. Currently in 6th place in that first sector. Over the rise we go at the uphill section. Now in towards the West Bend. He's gone green through the second sector. Currently 6th fastest within 0.4 of a second of provisional pole position. He makes his way now through Diving Bend and onto the start-finish straight. He's not so happy about that lap and comes back to the pit lane, and that gives us then just a handful of drivers. Corral comes across the line, sets his personal best. It's good enough at the moment for 8th place. Kirsten Abeya off at the uphill and now onto the grass. That will surely be his chance of a lap time over and done with. The checkered flag is out, and what that looks like is, to me, Kirsten Abeya grabs pole position by 0.04 of a second, and the top 5 covered by just over 1.5 of a second. Wow.
Just absolutely unbelievable scenes. Honestly, it was a couple thousands apart, then Murcia improves by a couple thousands in front of the other two in the top 3, and Abeya just out of nowhere finds again the form that he had in Mills Metro Park in the middle of the race, where he kept defending like a champion up until that unfortunate incident. And I'm just at a loss of words. Incredible.
I can't wait. This is your chance to grab the popcorn now. The race is not too far away. Well, we'll have a look at the World Pro Racing facility just to calm ourselves down. We'll be back in a bit.
L-ewwel ħaġa bħala Gaming Malta l-esports huwa settur importanti ħafna għalina. Meta nħarsu lejn gaming ma nitkellmux biss fuq l-online gaming, imma il-video gaming u anki l-esports. L-esports huwa settur li internazzjonalment qed jikber ħafna u Malta għandha rol importanti wkoll x'tilab f'dan is-settur. Coming back to home, il-World Pro Racing hija kumpanija li dit mill-Maltin u qed tagħmel suċċess internazzjonali. Ġifieri Malta għalija hija pedina għal l-ambizzjonijiet tagħhom fuq pjan internazzjonali.
L-ewwel rrid insir Formula 1 driver u ngħaddi lil Lewis Hamilton bir-rekord tiegħu. U mbagħad wara rrid insir inġinier.
Mela t-tifel huwa professional driver diġà tal-go-karts, tella barra minn Malta nkajsu u training u hekk allura bejn telliqa oħra meta ma jkunux jistgħu jiċċassaw it-trek huwa tajjeb li jiġi hawnhekk jitrejnja hija simulator bħal go-kart qiegħed isuq ġol l-istess trakka li jsuqgħu Malta lura jkun qiegħed training minflok qiegħed ġa trakka stess. Għandu l-coach tiegħu tas-CRG stess, jgħalmu jagħtu ħtiebs barra minn Malta l-istess ħaġa jkallmuhom kif iduru mal-kantunieri, race line, il-ħinijiet x'in jafsu l-gass, il-break. Hija teknika ħafna l-ħaġa, ġifieri kapaċi ħafna iktar minn it-tifel. Huwa post fejn jista' jiżvoga. meta jmorru ġa trakku ma stess jgħidulek aħna nħossuna żvogajna flaxej jħossuhom tranquilli għax ineħħu l-istress tal-ġurnata, l-istress tal-iskola, kollox. Plus li huwa sport sabiħ għalihom li jitrejnjaw. It-tifel trabba ġol karozzi, allura għalih hija passjoni. Dan iċ-ċentru għalih huwa post fejn jista' jiżvoga jkunu. Għal dawk il-parents forsi li jibżaw jgħidulek għax huwa perikolus. Hawnhekk m'hawnx periklu. Qegħdin protetti, ġobini, it-tfal jaraw x'iridu. Jekk ma jibdewx issa minn eta żgħira xorta jibdew meta jkunu kbar, so ma jteżwilithom l-opportunitajiet kollha li tkun tista' tihom meta jkunu żgħar.
Jien ma' World Pro Racing naħdem bħala replay person u nsuq mat-tim ukoll. Main task jien normalment nagħmel nieħu ħsieb li l-computers kollha din jaħdmu, nieħu ħsieb li l-komunità għandna platform online li kollox qed immur sew anke nikkomunikaw ma' drivers. U għal events nikteb l-artikli nipublikawhom fuq il-website. Jien as such bdejt bħal kull student naqa' technical know-hows, imbagħad ovvjament through time bdejt nitgħallem kif ċertu pereżempju broadcasts, ċertu affarijiet, ċertu preparations li jsiru qabel. Dik regarding World Pro Racing, anke bħala sim racing, bdejt jien bħala e-sport jiġifieri aktar fuq computer, imbagħad bdejt bil-mod nibni bħala steerings u hekk tracks tibda bil-mod kollox pass issa.
We just finished the qualifying. Wow, what the results that were very, very close. Joined with us now in the studio, we have Davinia. Davinia, how are you?
Hello, I'm very good. I was very nervous, on my toes, excited for today's qualifying. Top 3 were really close every time. It was, if I look somewhere else, someone goes in first place. It was very, very close. I really enjoyed it. I can't wait for the relays to begin.
Yeah, I'm going to echo those exact sentiments. It was such an exciting qualifying session. The lap times were so close, most of the time within like a handful of milliseconds. You know, in the commentators booth, we were talking about how a blink of an eye is like a tenth. We had a fraction of that between most of the drivers at their various points. Abeir took an amazing pole position. I think he set himself up really well for the race, so it's going to be a very, very exciting one.
Also, as I mentioned last week, there are 2 players who don't have a sim rig at home, which are Andrea Rizzo and Colin Foster. I would like to tell them well done for competing with these players who have a sim race, a sim rig at home. So they are in a disadvantage, obviously, but they're still competing and they still want to achieve what they train for.
And a comment on Rizzo's performance in qualifying. There was a moment where he was generally keeping up with the topper runners. He at one point set a purple sector. He kind of lost in the end of the lap, but he had that purple sector. He clearly had the pace to keep up with them, which is very impressive for someone who probably doesn't have as much practice.
Yeah.
So, it's good to see that he can still run with the big guns, I suppose.
So this is the 4th round out of 8. We are halfway through the championship. We're inching closer and closer. Do you have maybe more of an idea of who might win and who might represent Malta in the FIA?
Well, I think Mikel Mejia is the safe bet. You know, he's won 2 of the races. He clearly has the pace. He's in P3 today, so he's going to get good points today, most probably, unless something horrible happens. But he is the safe bet, I would say. If you want to go for more of an out there risk, Jason Muscat and Bernard Vella are both very strong and very consistent drivers. They're always at the sharp end of the points. They're always on the pace. And I think it would be silly to count them out just yet. And then you have your more wild cards. You know, Sheldon Scott Muscat has been there. He's been on the pace, but he's been unfortunate. He's had 2 retirements. I think he could still score well, but winning the entire championship might be a bit of a tall order. Abeir, depending on how he does today, he's in an excellent position to command this race. I think he could do well today, and it could set him up well for the rest of the races.
Can we have your opinions, Davinia?
I have not much left to say. I think, as Simon said, I think both Scott, Sheldon as well. I have a few picks, but I think we'll have to wait and see.
Yes, everyone is very excited to see who's going to be the winner. Thank you both for your comments. Back to Kieran and Nicholas.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everyone down at the studio, in Yaz, Simon and Davinia. And yeah, well, we're looking forward to a race that's going to be pretty wild in itself. Half a second pretty much covers 7 of the drivers in qualifying. And Andrea Rizzo, well, I have to say, he's been the performance of the night so far. Kirsten Abea might have that pole position, but Andrea Rizzo, his first laps around Lime Rock were tonight, about an hour ago. That's an impressive performance from him so far.
Yeah, absolutely. Finding impressive time in comparison to everyone else, and especially in the first sector, being able to go toe-to-toe with the front runners, you know. And, you know, it's really that thing where some people, you know, even though they can practice, you know, just latent ability and adaptability to your current conditions, that really shines through in these situations. So yeah, fantastic drive from Andrea Rizzo, and of course from Colin Foster as well.
Yeah, from Colin Foster. On top of that as well, having to come into tonight's session, not a lot of practice, no sim rig at home, so has to do a lot of that here, a lot of learning at the facility itself, which is not easy when you have to keep going somewhere that's not your home, that's, you know, not sort of a place you're familiar with. To get into a rig and try and put some laps in, you've got a limited amount of time as well to do that. So pretty difficult for those both, but they've done a fantastic job so far at a track which really will punish a mistake of a tenth of a second, maybe even 2/10. You find yourself down the order. What's going to be interesting is going in towards the Big Ben for the very first time in this race, and then for the next 10 or 15 laps beyond that. We've got drivers that are within half a second of each other. The top 7 are at the very least. We could see a little bit of a traffic jam going through the S's, then in towards the Big Ben, and we could see pretty much a flying formation going over the uphill section.
Yeah, I think especially as soon as people go side by side with each other, you know? Someone messes up the exit of a corner, and simply because it's all so fluent, it's all such a fast circuit, as soon as someone goes side by side with each other, I think they're gonna back up each other, and immediately everyone else behind that will, you know, be right on their tail as well. So it's really complicated, you know? It's really a strategic battle today, rather than just an all-out pace fest, so to say. And yeah, these guys will really have to watch out when to make their moves and where to make their moves.
So, obviously, Nico, when you come to a track that's narrow like this, where there's not many overtaking opportunities, if you find yourself in the midfield, how on earth do you try and find your way past?
Well, really, really difficult. Of course, you know, you want to overtake as fast as possible. I mean, generally, on the start, you're going to want to be very aggressive, of course, to use the chances where the field is the closest together, and hope that you just nail the start, especially when it's a standing start like here. But I think the main thing is, you know, just tenacity, stay on your line, don't make any mistakes. If you have consistency, now is the stress test point. And yeah, I think it's really all about consistency and staying error-free today.
Consistency and staying error-free at a track that has pretty much 0 track limits for you to recover from. There's pretty much grass everywhere. The only part that there's a tarmac runoff, there's pretty much a tyre wall right before the uphill section. So it's going to be a tricky one for the drivers. The race is not too far away, and we'll be able to find out whether Kirsten Abea can hold on and hang on by just that 0.04 of a second. He grabbed that pole position lap time by. A great lap time from him, and great from all involved as well. Could he try and angle his way for his first win in the Multinational GT3 Championship? Well, in about half hour's time, we'll be able to find out. Myself, Kieran McGinley, and Nico Hillebrand alongside to bring you the action very, very shortly. Nico, the burning question is, can Kirsten Abea do it, or will Mikael Murcia find his way through?
I think that's a very good question, and to that I have to honestly say we won't know until we see it. And especially, you know, this is the big break, you know, in Mills Metro Park and last weekend at Estoril. Both times, Mikael and, of course, Jason, they were starting at the front row. They was always, you know, in the mix for the front lead battle. But now, both of them not on row 1. Sheldon Scott Muscat, Kirsten Abea, both of them are blocking the front row. And I think this is really now the big breaking point where they have to fucking... show how to go consistently.
Well, here we go then, ready for the race. The red lights go on, they go off, and we are away. And Murcia wants to get things started straight away, finding his way through. No, couldn't quite do it as we head our way now in towards the Big Bend. Oh, there's contact at the front. Kirsten Abaya and Sheldon Scott Muscat come together. It's pandemonium at the Big Bend then. Drivers trying to find their way through at the moment. It is the number 4 then of Bernard Vella who finds his way at the front then. Kirsten Abaya has had a nightmare start there. He's had to, well, he's pulling to one side. He must have a lot of damage to that car as well, making our way through. And I think that normally means the race is going to be restarted. So we're going to red flag that session. We'll get the drivers back onto the grid and a full restart will have to be undertaken. So we get a take 2 at that one, Nico. But, well, bit of a messy start that time around.
Absolutely. I mean, that is one thing that I didn't see coming. I mean, I said, you know, when you're starting in the midfield, you have to be aggressive on the start. But, they are starting on row 1. They don't have to be that aggressive in the first corner. So yeah, really, really difficult, of course. And you saw just how quickly it can happen here.
It can indeed. Red lights go on for the second time, and we're away. What are the starts like this time? Another good start from Mikael Murcia as we make our way down there. No, not quite this time. No, full start, everybody. No, don't worry about it. Never happened. Back to us. Focus on us. We're here. But yeah, obviously these restarts are going to take a toll on the drivers as well, having to go through the process of going through a restart. Just quickly, Nico, how challenging is that to reset your mindset to get back into a race start again?
It's incredibly difficult, and especially on a standing start, you know, on a rolling start, it's still at least, you know, you're already underway, you're just waiting on the signal to then fully floor it. But, you know, on a standing start, you're just completely anchored in your position. And right here...
Here we go then, third time's the charm they say, and here we go. What are the starts like? Mikael Murcia, once again for the third time, gets a great start. He's now alongside. He's up the middle now, trying to go into turn 1, but there's contact again between himself and Sheldon Scott Muscat. It's a cleaner start, but Mikael Murcia finds himself all the way down the field then into 7th place. Andrea Rizzo fancies a free position. He's now up into 6th, but Kirsten Abaya, that's the dream start he wanted there. Mikael Murcia tripping up over Sheldon Scott Muscat going in towards turn 1. He finds himself now down into 7th place. That puts Dean Vella up now into 4th place as he's being chased down by the number 4 of Bernard Vella. Obviously the green flag's now being waved by the marshals on the very first lap at least to let the drivers know that we are racing and everything is going forward then. So Kirsten Abaya in the lead at the moment, as just as quickly as that, the first lap is already gone. It is the number 10 of Jason Muscat in 2nd place. There is Sheldon Scott Muscat in 3rd as we make our way in towards the Big Bend. Well, Simon, when we got the racing started, it was action-packed, wasn't it?
Which racing start? There were so many of them, and they were all just as chaotic as the previous one. Yeah, to the one that's actually going on right now, it was Murcia got such a great start. It's a shame that he had to, that he was accidentally like turned around. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure Abaya is loving it. He's got almost a second lead over Muscat now, so hopefully he can run away and take the win.
Not the start that Murcia wanted, but you can see he's all over the back of Rizzo there as they made their way over the uphill. Sheldon Scott Muscat, well, that's the number 9 of Dean Vella running slightly onto the grass, and something like that will get you punished. It again onto the grass was the number 9 of Dean Vella, and he might just fall away from the slipstream then, as of course we've got the fastest lap, Jason Muscat, 47.1 with a load of race fuel on board. Well, at least this time around that Sheldon Scott Muscat has got enough fuel to at least complete the first lap. That's obviously a good sign so far, Nico.
Absolutely, and we also get the news here for turn 1, that incident with Murcia and Sheldon Scott Muscat. No further action, so it is what I kind of feared. Obviously, Murcia tries to make the move immediately and then perhaps just didn't quite leave enough space to Sheldon to go anywhere, so contact can happen that easily. And of course, Abaya, that's what he really wanted, because at the start here, he had 9/10 of a gap that swirls around here, so absolutely crazy. Now Andrea Rizzo all over the back of Bernard Vella, trying to look for the outside of the Big Bend.
Yes, Rizzo trying to go round the outside of the Big Bend of race 1's winner, Bernard Vella, trying to go round the outside, but he'll find himself onto the grass and around the car goes. Going to keep it out of the wall at the very least. A light tap on the rear end, but Rizzo's good momentum there halted at the moment with a little bit of damage to the rear of his car to boot as well. Sheldon Scott Muscat looking at the battle up ahead, because that's Jason Muscat all over the back of Kirsten Abaya for the lead of this race. The dirty air doesn't have to seem to have too much an effect, at least going over the uphill as we go airborne. At the moment then, Simon, Kirsten Abaya's got his hands full at the moment.
Definitely, there is not much in it, is there? He had that great lead and that great start, the great gap off the start, but Jason Muscat and Sheldon Scott Muscat are both there. Hopefully the second and third place cars can battle and will give him a bit more of an edge.
That's for Kirsten Abaya, as for sure, as Dean Vella trying to find his way past Sheldon Scott Muscat. And as we discussed before, Nico, it's a very narrow track, flowing corners all the way through, and not many heavy braking zones, if any at all. Overtaking is going to be very, very difficult, as Murcia has now moved himself up into 6th place with that spinner from Andrea Rizzo, so he's up a position there. But you can see how hard the drivers are working at this track. It may be short, it may be 47 seconds long, but you're doing it so many times.
Absolutely. I mean, my calculation said almost 40 laps, so quite a considerable number higher than the other laps we've had so far in this championship. Now we have Jason Muscat. Actually, I think he has shaved himself since last week, so maybe that gives him an aerodynamic advantage. But yeah, both of them just absolutely on edge, complete concentration on their faces, and obviously neither of them want to drop the ball and make a mistake here.
That's so important, isn't it? I think there's going to be some hard workers in there as well. Jason Muscat just seeing if he can find a gap there to try and squeeze his McLaren through, but not one exists so far. Sheldon Scott Muscat fancies his chances as we make our way now all the way through in towards the big bend and then up through the uphill. There's 2 big bends. That's the second big bend. Over the uphill and then on towards the back straight. Through we go, the west bend. And Sheldon Scott Muscat there, you can see at the top of the picture, is currently 3rd place, just into that slipstream at the moment. Murcias are just on the back of this battle. He's in that purple car as 2 cars run wide, both the Vellas taking the same line there as they make their way through. And Nico, how easy is that then? I mean, I've been in that position as Dean Vella tries to go up the inside there, no way through. Bernard Vella trying to defend from Michael Murcia. I mean, when you are following a car behind, I mean, the one thing you don't want to do is follow their line, because if they go wide, you obviously follow their line wide, but it's so easy to get sucked into, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when someone in front of you makes a mistake, all you basically have to think in that moment, you know, it's so easy to get that tunnel view, to get just sucked into, you know, following the same habits. And I think the most difficult thing is getting out of that, you know, because you can get tunnel vision so easily, and, well, just try to snap out of it, and especially, well, trying to get yourself adjusted to that and get the best out of their mistake.
Out of their mistake indeed, as we see Murcia trying to make up for his mistake going in towards turn 1. He was caught in traffic, I think I heard you say, Simon, and he got to the facility with 10 minutes to spare before qualifying. He now finds himself stuck in traffic again. That's not his idea of his night so far, is it?
No, I can't imagine he's too happy about his current situation. But he does seem to have the pace. He seems to be giving Bernard Vella quite the run for his money for that 5th place. Yeah. Speaking of Bernard Vella, he doesn't seem to quite have the pace around this track. He qualified a bit further down than he's used to, and he's even now running there, probably going to get caught by Murcia. Oh, maybe. So it's kind of shocking to see him maybe not quite understand this track as well as some of the others he's been to. Obviously, he has that race win from round 1 as well.
Yeah, we know at round 1 how good he can defend and how good he can defend a piece of track. As we head our way down in towards the first big bend, then riding on board then with Michael Murcia as we make our way through this long right-hander. And Nico, we were talking about tyre wear going in towards this race, and obviously if you're stuck in a pack like this, if you're trying to constantly overtake, you're just going to eat through your tyres even more.
Absolutely, and especially the dirty air, even if it doesn't have that much of an effect visually here, it will have an effect on your tyres, because all the downforce that you don't get behind another car, of course, all that grip that you're getting from the car otherwise, you need to get that from your tyres, and these tyres will only provide that for so long. But now Bernard Vella, a bit wider through diving turn, and Michael Murcia looking down the inside and getting pushed to the very inside of the Sam Palsy straight, but not quite able to make the move yet under brakes.
Yeah, and got onto the curb as well, going through the first big bend, and The rear started to step out on him. He managed to gather it back up, but I think he knew there that it was always going to go against him going in towards that corner, going in towards the tightening right-hander. There's Jason Muscat in second place, but our race leader, who's been leading from the start, Kirsten Abaya, still hanging on in there. He gets a little bit of grass through, and that's just encouraging Jason Muscat to try and find a way through. Through the west bend we go, down the hill we go, in towards the diving bend for this long right-hander. It's a long, fast right-hander. The back end slightly steps out on Kirsten Abaya. Jason Muscat into the slipstream, almost leaning forward to try and help the slipstream there. It does work. It's a psychological effect. Down in towards turn one we go. Oh, and Kirsten Abaya runs a little bit deep into one. That could be a chance for Jason Muscat. He's trying to hang on to that car, is Kirsten Abaya. The rear tyres overheating there, desperately hanging on with his fingernails. He's just hanging on in there at the moment, but this constant pressure from Jason Muscat, well, something's got to give eventually, surely.
Yeah, absolutely, but you could see it just now. It came completely sideways from touching the grass in the middle of the big bend. But just placing the car properly, and car placement is one of the things that Kirsten Abaya can just do so well in defensive drives. And just really, really well-placed car here. And if he keeps holding up Jason Muscat like that, you can see it right behind that. It's a perfect color here. Dark grey McLaren on the grass on the inside. Oh my goodness me.
And that's allowed Dean Vella to try and swoop round the outside in towards the first big bend. He's now up into third place, and while the two Muscats are squabbling away, Vella slips through up into third place. So that's something Jason Muscat has to be careful of. He can't defend too hard because he might concede positions. Sheldon Scott Muscat there might feel a little bit hard done by. He was battling away for second place. Suddenly he finds himself in fourth. That is breathing space that Kirsten Abaya needed. He needs the last battlers behind him to really work each other hard, and now it's becoming a little bit of a five-car train for second place. Simon, how important is it when you're in this pack to try and keep yourself to yourself?
It is very important. I think we've seen in many races across many series that when the second and third place start battling so hard to lead the pack, the leader can just drive away and build too big of a gap that can be overcome later. I think that's what Abaya will be hoping for. He wants to see this battling. He wants to see them taking funky lines and slowing each other down so he can just run away. But it seems like they're being a bit more calmer now, maybe closing the gap slightly, so I don't think he can breathe for too long.
Yeah, hopefully we can keep seeing this battle all night long. Did someone tell them it's a half-hour race? They seem to be going at it constantly. It's great to see, and you can also join the conversation wherever you are. Hashtag WPR, hashtag World Pro Racing. Let us know who you're supporting tonight on social media. Maybe it's Mikael Murcia, who's at the moment stuck behind the number 4 of Bernard Vella. We've seen a situation similar like this before, haven't we? At round number 1, but here's Murcia along the right-hand side by side we go. He's got much more of an inside line this time around. He might back out of it though, and he does, and that allows Bernard Vella to take an outside line. Murcia still up the inside. They're still running side by side as we head our way through the S's there, and maybe a hesitant Murcia might have cost himself a chance of 5th place there.
Really difficult to tell, you know. You just have to get the car past at least completely sideways for the first part of the big bend, and then just complete the move for the second part. And Murcia just can't seem to get it properly sorted there, but also pay attention, they're not really losing time to the front group, so it's really difficult here to judge whether, you know, they're really just burning their tires away, or, you know, if maybe it's not even that bad right now.
Jason Muscat looking at the leader as well. He's really closed in on that gap once again. There he is. The battle for the lead is back on. You can grab that popcorn once again. The top 4 battling away, hammer, tooth and nail for this position. Now the top 4 have broken away from the likes of Bernard Vella and Mikael Murcia. That battle for 5th place. But you never know, they could be reeled back in if the top 4 battle away as hard as they do. Jason Muscat just trying to find a different line as we head our way through the second big bend, up through the uphill and then back onto the back straight through in towards the west bend. And Jason Muscat is, well, he's going to not really like the colour light blue at this moment, Nico.
Absolutely he won't, and I actually guess, you know, it's basically a bit more of a red tone for him, you know, much like with a Spanish Bull, for example. But now he's making it for the outside for the big bend, and can he actually hold around? But you have to leave the space, Jason. You have to leave the space because Kirsten is going to take it otherwise anyway.
Yeah, there's a bit of door-to-door between the two of them, but at the moment it's Kirsten Beyer who holds on to that lead. And you see the concentration in Jason Muscat at the moment, trying to find that way past, trying to set up these corners in a good way so that he doesn't lose that time. I mean, Simon, door-to-door through turn 1 for the race lead.
Yeah, it's what we love to see. We want to see these battles for the race lead. But, like we mentioned earlier, they have to be careful. If they battle too much, Dean Vella's right there, Scott Muscat right there, really can't waste too much time battling.
We can't at the moment, but full focus will be there. We're not even halfway through the race, Nico. We've had battles, we've had a little bit of contact, we've had 3 goes at the race start. We got there eventually, third time is the charm. But yet we're not even halfway through. We've still got more than half the race to go. Refill that popcorn now.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible to me how quickly these, first halves of the race always go away. But I think this is by far the most eventful race we've had so far, simply because Lime Rock Park's nature is just something that promotes this close kind of racing, you know? And, you know, Abaya, really big gap earlier, but I think mainly he tried to cool down his rear tires because we saw how much he was struggling in the middle there, and now just holding up the others a little bit, trying to keep up that gap, just to keep Muscat in an attackable position for Dean Vella, and of course for Sheldon Scott Muscat as well.
Another chance then for Jason Muscat to try and grab the lead, but you can see Kirsten Abaya trying to break the slipstream. He's allowed 1 defensive move, then 1 move back to the racing line, so that's completely legal. He just decided to use his defensive move to try and break the slipstream just a little bit and force Jason Muscat to try and follow that in order to keep up. Here's Dean Vella looking for a move up the inside in towards the S's. No way through the door, was quickly closed there, and in fairness to Dean Vella, he saw that coming. Back onto the power we go then through the Big Bend. It's Kirsten Abaya leading the way from Jason Muscat and riding on board with Dean Vella, who's currently in 3rd. Sheldon Scott Muscat in 4th with Bernard Vella in 5th place. Mikhail Murcia in 6th place with Gianluigi Corrao in 7th. Andrea Rizzo in 8th, and Colin Foster rounds off our top 9 drivers. Down the hill we go then, riding on board with Dean Vella through this last corner back onto the start-finish straight. We've got yellow flags in Sector 2. At the moment we're fully focused on this battle for P1. In towards the first turn, once again we go. I mean, Simon, if you had to put any bets on at halfway through this race, who could win this one? I mean, would you put a bet on?
I think the question is, can you put a bet on? Abaya could realistically defend his position till the end of the race, but just as equally, Muscat could attack till the end of the race and get the move, or they can hit each other off because they're racing so close, they're door-to-door regularly. It's really hard to call at this moment.
Really hard to call too close to call. I think I'm sitting on the fence with you as well, Simon. Nico, how about you? Predictions?
Difficult. It's all about if Abaya can keep up this defensive drive here, and if the others can catch up, because as you can see, top 6 are all within 3.5 seconds, and it hasn't really changed since, basically 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, all 3 of us sitting on the fence then, so good stuff. Jason Muscat still on the back of Kirsten Abaya as we make our way through the S's, then on towards the Big Bend we go. 14 minutes to go. Kirsten Abaya has led every single lap so far as he now makes his way onwards towards the uphill. You can see the cones there. That's the corner markers there. 300, 200, 100 before the corner, and then you can see Jason Muscat still applying that pressure. You can see the concentration in here. It's such a demanding circuit. You might think because there's no braking zones, it's not challenging at all. Well, you can see on board with Jason Muscat, it's the furthest from that. It means it requires a lot of concentration. We've got Colin Foster in the pit lane for what we can assume is damages. The number in the brackets, the time in the brackets is the amount of time he's been stopped in his pit box. So we can safely assume that's for damages. But as long as he finishes this race, that still points towards his finishing order. Dean Vella currently in 3rd place. You'll remember he slipped through when the 2 Muscats were battling away for 2nd place. And he inherited 3rd place by just being cautious, watching the battle, and just picking up the pieces. He's now up into 3rd. A very smart move, you have to say, Nico.
Yeah, absolutely. And, there's always a bit of desperation in any attempt to defend. So, you don't just have to get focused on the guy immediately behind you, but also, of course, like in this sense, Dean Vella, the guy 2 cars behind you. So, really, really difficult to always get an overview of who you have to defend against, especially when the lap is this short.
demanding circuit, a short circuit, and overtaking opportunities are very, very limited. Colin Foster has now exited the pit lane after nearly 2 minutes stopped in the pit box. That will be at least a fresh set of tyres on, but hopefully a car he will be able to drive and just make sure he gets to that finish line. And you can see a 2-minute pit stop. He's now 4 laps down on the race leader, but fair play to him. He's still in this race and wants to see that checker flag. That's exactly what we want to see. Dean Vella, over the top we go, airborne over the uphill section, and then onwards we go towards the west bend. Down in towards the diving bend we will go, and Dean Vella, if he can hook up the end of this lap, might have a good chance on the back of Jason Muscat. Onto the curb we go and back onto the start finish straight again. A lot of slipstreaming down in towards turn 1, but there you can see Kirsten Abeya feels confident to keep a hold of that racing line, just looking forward at the moment. Although if I were him, I'd be looking back constantly. I'd be hitting that mirror button every way I can. Riding on board then with Jason Muscat, you can see the picture in picture, how hard he's working as well. The focus in his face, Simon. The absolute focus to try and get past. He's not giving up on this one, not by a long shot.
Not at all. His jaw is properly clenched, isn't it? I mean, you can understand it. He's so close. He's been looking at the back of a turquoise McLaren for the entire race. He wants to get past. He wants to make that move. The question is where. Abeya is doing great to put his car right where he needs to defend and just stretch out enough of a gap that he can hold the position through most of the laps so far.
Once again, back onto the start finish straight with 11.5 minutes to go. Slowly closing in on the McLaren ahead of him, but it's not enough to see if he can try and move in towards the big bend then. Through we go through turn 1, and Michael Mercia once again cannot find the way past Bernard Vella. That just sums up how difficult it is to make an overtake here. I mean, Nico, if you're the driver who's trying to battle away for the race lead, we might see something happen there as Kirsten Abeya had a little bit of a moment coming out of the S's on towards the big bend, almost cost him that position there. Up the hill we go, up the hill section, and once again the Muscats are going to be battling away, but Sheldon Scott Muscat tucks back into the slipstream, at least for now. Well, Nico, how do you approach this then? You've spent so many laps behind the race leader at a track that's tough to overtake on. What's going through your mind in the last 10 minutes?
I think at this point I'd really just try to apply as much pressure as possible on Abeya. And perhaps wait, for the next time when everyone's just very, very close together, because at that point, everyone's so close together in the rear mirror, and even Abeya will see when Muscat, for example, pulls out. So at this point, I think, it's really developing in in a four-way, basically Western-style standoff, Who draws first? Who makes the first move for that position, And it's really about the mind games here. So really, really difficult to see, how everyone will now pan out. And, Muscat really has to make the move now, because otherwise he might just get trapped in that rhythm for the rest of the race.
Well, he might be stuck here at the moment, but he's still going to apply that pressure. We have 10 minutes to go. You can see trying to close in, but it's not enough from Jason Muscat down in towards the big bend here. Kirsten Abeya is less than 10 minutes away from picking up his first race victory. Maybe you're supporting him tonight. Let us know. Get involved. Hashtag WPR. Hashtag World Pro Racing. Let us know who you're supporting tonight. Maybe you're hoping that Kirsten Abeya can hang on to this race victory. Maybe you're hoping that Jason Muscat can keep his win on track if he can get it. Making our way now on through the Big Ben and then making his way up the uphill, going airborne and making our way once again back onto the West Bend. There's just no way through at the moment. Dean Vella also looking to pick up the pieces. He's done it once before against Sheldon Scott Muscat when the Muscats battled away just a few minutes ago. Now we're back once again onto the start finish straight. Jason Muscat once again in that slipstream. He looks a lot closer than he did last lap. He's thinking about a move up the inside. He sends it up the inside. Can he keep it all under wraps then? He'll have the outside line going through turn 1. It's a long, long turn 1, but that's a move he tried to make. Something, a spark he tried to create. It didn't work this time. Kirsten Abeya hangs on.
Oh, and he really can't do too many more of these moves. If he makes a move, it really has to sit, because if you overheat your tires, then it's completely going to be over. So this is now also going to be on his mind. And really, with Dean Vella being right on his tail there, just look at him just moving a little bit out of the slipstream there, just to show, hello, I'm here. Just really, really tense now.
Yeah, now might be a chance for Dean Vella to have a go then. As you see there, Jason Muscat now feels the need to defend from Dean Vella behind. He makes a move there, then back onto the racing line. Mikael Murcia also looking to try and once again find a move past Bernard Vella. Couldn't quite do it this time. Still there in 6th place as he tries to chase down and try and recover as many positions as possible. Still, the battle for the lead rages on then as we head our way out of the S's on towards the Big Bend. We will go 4 drivers, and then there's Vella and Murcia still not too far away. 6 cars could come away with the lead of this one. 6 cars are in the running to win this, and at the moment Kirsten Abea is in that prime position with 7.5 minutes to go. Simon, I mean, where do you start? This has been such an intense race all throughout.
Yeah.
Jason Muscat at the moment then still in 2nd place, still trying to find a way through, still prizing for an opportunity in through the first turn we go. And yes, absolutely. Sorry, we lost you for a moment, Simon, there, so unfortunately I had to speak over you. Jason Muscat. That's no problem at all. Maybe sum up what you were saying before then, before I rudely interrupted.
It's no problem. I was basically saying that the cars are getting closer together the more they battle, and Jason Muscat kind of has to get this move done as soon as possible. If he wastes too much, if he runs to his tyres too much, he might start dropping back to Dean Vella and Sheldon Scott, who are right there.
In fact, speaking of dropping away, we've had Bernard Vella and Murcia also drop away. They're now 8.3 seconds behind this battle, so they might have run into each other as Dean Vella gets onto the grass there. You can see they're not in this lead battle anymore. They're firmly, look, they're coming through the last corner now, so something's happened between the two of them that has sent them all the way back there. But at the rate these top 4 are battling away, they'll just reel themselves back in, won't they, Nico?
Yeah, not with this amount of time left, though, so it's going to be quite close. I think it happened actually when they got to the Big Bend last lap. Murcia tried to make a move, and then the camera sadly ran out of view angle. So yeah, something must have happened there. Maybe both of them got together and someone got on the grass, having to slow down or something. Really difficult to judge. But yeah, last 6 minutes, 5 minutes and I'd say about 44 seconds. And yeah, this is still as tense as lap 1.
It's just as tense, isn't it? As Jason Muscat tries to find a way through. I mean, all the plaudits as well have to go the way of Kirsten Abea. I mean, he's done a superb job at placing that car, hasn't he? It's not easy to have a race lead. It's not easy to have 4 to 6 cars hounding on you. There's a penalty being handed out to Andrea Rizzo. Now, I'm assuming that's going to be for possibly track limits because we haven't had any indication from our FIA accredited stewards that the penalty was coming Rizzo's way. So we'll assume it's track limits until we're corrected otherwise. Meanwhile, you can see Dean Vella all over the back of Jason Muscat, and that's been the story for the battle for the top 4. Each car has been all over the gearbox, all over that rear diffuser, and Dean Vella here right on the back of Jason Muscat as we make our way down the start-finish straight. 5 minutes to go here at Lime Rock Park for a chance of a victory here to mark the halfway point in the Malta GT3 Championship, and most importantly, a chance to represent Malta at the FIA Motorsport Games on the line here. Every single driver will throw everything at it, and Kirsten Abea is doing a sublime job at defending at the moment, isn't he?
Absolutely, and he's just absolutely trying to keep everything together there. He's slowing down in Sector 1 a little bit, probably to try and save his tyres a little bit for the rest of the lap. But you can see Jason Muscat is really over the back of him, and it's really about, who can now get the closest through that last corner and just get ahead now.
Well, still everything to play for. 4 minutes to go in towards the Big Bend once again. And any 4 of them could win it. I mean, to be fair, Kirsten Abea has done a sublime job all day. We've said how overtaking is difficult here, just when you're not trying to defend. But when you're Kirsten Abea, who's been placing the car perfectly all night long, it's made it even tougher for Jason Muscat to try and find a way through, hasn't it, Simon?
Definitely. We saw when Jason Muscat tried to overtake, Abea knew exactly where to put his car to just slide back up on the inside and keep his position. He's been driving so well. It's an absolutely commendable drive.
It is indeed, and the spectators there glued to their seats, or glued at least standing. They can't take their eyes off of this one. Dean Vella, meanwhile, needs to make sure he keeps his eyes away from the mirror. He makes a move to defend from Sheldon Scott Muscat, but he can't find the racing line once again because Muscat's on his outside. In through the big bend we go once again. Dean Vella holding on to the inside line for now, but when you're defending and when you're attacking, you're going to use your tyres a lot more, and we're coming into that stage, Nico, where tyres are going to be at the forefront of your priority to make sure you keep them in check as much as possible.
Yeah, absolutely, and especially now with Sheldon Scott Muscat as well, we saw how he was trying to attack around the outside, but really brave, but I don't think that's quite going to work at this stage. You're not going to have the tyres to hang on there, so I think at this point, you know, they're just trying to force each other into mistakes there, so yeah, really, really difficult. And yeah, whoever now holds on to their car the best through these last, well, I'd say 4 laps.
Jason Muscat! Oh, Jason Muscat looking for a move! Does he make contact with Kirsten Bayer? I think he just about backed out of it, though. It looked like contact was made. He just about managed to back out of it, but a late move, a late lunge, and maybe a hint of desperation now from Jason Muscat.
Absolutely, and you know, we saw this a couple of times with Jason Muscat, like trying to make, you know, rather aggressive moves, you know, and maybe having a bit of contact there. After all, that decided the outcome of the Mills Metro Park race round 2. But, you know, still really calculated, you know, still barely pulling back out. But I think maybe that is also just a little bit of a scare tactic, because I would be lying if I said, if I was Kirsten Bayer, I would be absolutely terrified. I wouldn't be absolutely terrified right now.
Well, there goes Dean Vella, because there's Jason Muscat, who made a mistake coming out of the final corner, got onto the grass, and now Dean Vella takes over second place spot with 90 seconds left on the clock. We've got about 2 laps, possibly 3. We'll have to see when they make their way towards the line. But now Dean Vella inherits as the predator for the race lead. And now in the final closing stages of this race, it's now at the turn of Dean Vella to try and find his way past. For Kirsten Bayer, he's had everything against Jason Muscat. But in the final 3 laps, Nico, he's got someone completely different to defend against, someone he hasn't had to defend against all race long.
Yeah, absolutely. I really wonder what happened there, because he lost so much momentum in such a short span of time. But, well, you know, Dean Vella not really caring about any of that. He's just going to take that freebie and go, well, thank you. And now off to the attack for the next car. So, yeah, 4.5, 5 tenths. A little bit of a worse run out of diving turn, but catches all of that up once again through the big bend. And I think really these last 2 laps, this is where you're gonna have to place it, and just barely a little feint there. But Bayer still really iron-willed, absolutely insisting on his racing line.
At the moment then, all 4 of these drivers, I don't think, have won a single race so far in this championship. Looks like no matter what happens, we'll crown our first winner of this lot in the Malta GT3 Championship. But who will it be? Kirsten Bayer has tried to hang on so much for so long as we make our way through the final couple of corners. I'm expecting this to be the penultimate lap, because they're making their way towards the start-finish line with only a handful of seconds on the clock then as they make their way across the line. It will be one more lap then as Dean Vella looks for a move down the inside. Can't find it yet. Sheldon Scott Muscat looking to try and pick up the pieces. No way through for him. So Kirsten Bayer has to defend for another 1.5 miles as we make our way through the S. This will be the longest 1.5 miles I'm sure he's ever driven with that predator. Dean Vella on his tail, on his rear wing as we make our way through the S's, now in towards the first big bend. Bayer leading Vella from Sheldon Scott Muscat. Jason Muscat rounding off the top 4 at the moment. Over the uphill, airborne one last time. Well, that's Sheldon Scott Muscat who locks up there. Sorry, it's Andrea Rizzo in the background who locks up there, getting out of the way, I think, but back onto Dean Vella then, who's trying to throw everything. One last chance through the final corner and onwards towards the start-finish line. It's going to be a photo finish towards the line. Kirsten Bayer trying to rock backwards and forwards to get the speed, and he does make the checkered flag by 0.021 seconds. Kirsten Bayer take a bow. He's worked so hard for that one. What a well-earned victory for Kirsten Bayer. That's his first win in the Malta GT3 Championship. It's the number 9 of Dean Vella who finishes in second place. Sheldon Scott Muscat finishing on the podium. Jason Muscat running in the top 4. Look how much it means to Kirsten Bayer. Look how much hard work has gone into that race. What a moment for him.
Absolutely incredible. This is one of the reasons why I love motorsport, you know. someone gets the win they've been craving for so long. Mills Metro Park looked so promising for him, but then just very, very barely, you know, this slight misplacement of an opponent's car, you know, spun him into the wall, damaged the car irreparably, and took that win away from him. And now he's finally done it. What a drive from Kirsten Nevaeh. Absolutely fantastic work from him. And you can see, I mean, I don't know if it is, but I think I can see some tears running down the face.
I mean, I'm not surprised. He threw everything at that, defended for his life, and what a drive. Kirsten Nevaeh, then, your winner of round number 4 of the Malta GT3 Championship, fueled by Enemed. I mean, Nico, take us through that as a driver. That's just his first race win for Kirsten Nevaeh. Just look how much it meant to him. I can hardly speak after that.
Well, I can't blame you, honestly, because, you know, I mean, whether it's real or virtual racing, you know, we always have this comparison, you know, of course, with the Malta Motorsport Federation also, you know, backing all of this. There's always this talk with real and virtual motorsport, but, you know, whether it's a real car or virtual car, you know, a win in such a race, no matter whether it's real or virtual, like, the racing is real, so the win is real in my book as well. So, you know, absolute reason for tears of joy here for me.
Yeah, in the legendary words of, I believe it was Jimmy Broadbent, the cars may not be real, but the racing sure well is. And I can't think of anything more and anything better to sum that up with. Just how much it meant to Kirsten Nevaeh, how much effort, how much hard work he had to put into that to defend that position. I mean, driving for 30 minutes around Lime Rock with not many opportunities to rest, not many opportunities to just take your foot off the pedal or any braking zones to give yourself a little bit of a break, to have a reset. You are full on for 30 minutes there.
Yeah, absolutely. And just so difficult to just get that completely maneuvered. I mean, I said it before, you know, one lap here is already cage fighting with a tiger in the car, but, you know, defending from, I think it was at this point, 4 or 5 different drivers for 30 minutes, so almost 40 laps around this place, at racing speeds, with tires that wear out rather quickly overall. Honestly, if I was wearing a hat, I'd be pulling it right now in Niki Lauda style.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it was a fantastic race. 3rd time's the charm, obviously, but for Michael Murcia, 3 of those times he got a fantastic start, but going in towards the middle then, in towards the very first turn, seemed to really sum up his race entirely from that point. Maybe a little bit too aggressive too early. You said that drivers have to be aggressive from the start, but for Michael Murcia, it didn't work this time.
Yeah, just not quite leaving enough of a gap there, I think. So really easy to do, of course, and also, you know, just generally, you have to be completely 100% aware of your car measurements, you know, of how much you can force people to give up. And of course, Jason Scott Muscat, he wasn't going to give up that position, simply because, you know, he was in that position in that 2nd place where he qualified. This was going to be his redemption race, and in the end, you know, a podium. Very good redemption from him as well after 2 DNFs, so Jason Scott Muscat's still going strong. Yeah, Murcia, really difficult race for him. Just couldn't get past most guys anymore, and yeah, just really frustrating for him, of course. And just like that, you know, the championship is also just thrown a little bit upside down again.
Yeah, for Michael Murcia then, he was caught in traffic and late to the simulation centre, got there with 10 minutes to spare before their practice actually started, and found himself caught in traffic yet again, so his day just pretty much a deja vu of itself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you know, traffic, whether it be on the racetrack or or in real life, you know, it is always a little bit frustrating to be behind that car. But, you know, when you're then just trying your best to make a way past and just can't really just get it all not together, you know. Bernard Vella did a fantastic defensive drive there, you know. All props to him, you know, because I think he knew that he wasn't going to be able to hold him for the entire time normally, but, you know, with the nature of the circuit, you know, the way that Bernard Vella defended, he really just put it everywhere where he needed to put it.
Absolutely. Now let's head back to Malta, back to the World Pro Racing Simulation Centre. Let's hand it over to Yaz, Simon and Davinia for a bit of a pre-race or D-race, a race debrief. Let's go to them now.
Thank you, Kieran and Nicholas. Wow, what a race. Very exciting results. I'm honestly mind blown. Simon and Davinia, what do you make of that?
I'm going to wow, just wow. You had times of race where 6 cars were within maybe 2 seconds, nose to tail. Anyone could have really won it. And the fact that Kirsten Beyer managed to defend his position from lap 1 onwards, there was pressure from behind the entire race, the entire 30 minutes. It's a comment to how amazing of a driver he is and how well he managed to hold his nerve.
Yeah.
From my side, to be honest, I really thought it was Jason's win. I really thought that he would push for the last couple of minutes and then really go for it and beat Kirsten, but that didn't happen. He stepped back from second position. So, but I think Kirsten Beyer truly deserves it. He stayed in the first position for quite a number of minutes, so I'm very pleased for him.
Definitely. And the thing with Jason Muscat as well, he was there the entire race, and it's kind of gutting for him that it was only in the last maybe 2-3 minutes that he made a small mistake, dropped to fourth, and couldn't really recover from there.
Yeah.
So this is Kirsten Beyer's first win, yeah?
Yes.
I think he really deserves it. We're gonna interview them in a short amount of time. Would you like to add anything else before we got to the interviews?
Let's hope that every race is like this, because it was absolutely so much fun.
Everyone was on their toes. Yeah, so back to Kieran and Nicholas.
Thank you very much, Yaz. And Simon saying, let every race be like that. Well, our throats and our voices will have to take a bit of a recovery after that, Nico. But I fully agree. What a race. From start to finish, it was action-packed. It had everything. The half hour flew by for us, but for the drivers, I mean, I'm worn out from that race. I can't imagine what the drivers are feeling right now.
Yeah, especially just overall, you know, you have the entire body being worn down, but most of all, of course, the mind in sim racing, simply because you just have a limited amount of feedback through the wheel. And even if you have the best wheel, you know, you still have to focus just on the feedback that you get through that. So, yeah, I can't imagine how beat down Kirsten Beyer is right now, but of course, all the adrenaline from winning this race, you know, I think that overwhelms any sense of pain. Up until the point when he later gets home and probably then just crashes into his bed, completely happy and, you know, exhausted beyond anything else.
And you know what? He'll thoroughly deserve it. He's worked so hard for that one. And of course, we'll hear from him later on tonight in the interviews. But I want to say as well, Andrea Rizzo, he had some good pace. Obviously, we said that he first got into the simulator for this race, for this track, earlier on tonight. He had a really good race. We'll come back to him in a moment because I believe Yaz and Simon have got Sheldon Scott Muscat ready to go for an interview. So let's hand over to Malta.
Joining us now for the first time is Sheldon Scott Muscat, who placed third in the results. How are you feeling?
Pretty exciting. It was a very good race, as you can see. We had good pace, all top 4, top 5, even top 6. Qualifying was very close, even the actual race. So yeah, we had a good race, you know. Lots of action.
Right in that front battle the entire race, maybe never more than a second away from another competitor. How stressful is that for a driver being that close for that long?
You know, I got used to it now. I got used to pressure. I got used to defending. I got used to attacking. I got used to getting the good run out of the car ahead. So that's what made the podium possible. So,
do you feel like maybe you could have gotten a bit more, or was it just the track was narrow, the cars were all very equally paced?
The track, to begin with, was a very tight. It's very difficult to overtake at. So
yeah,
I couldn't. First of all, I don't want to crash into my teammates, Dean Vella, who I congratulate for the result, and of course Kirsten for the first place. And second of all, I don't want to risk, you know, third place, you know, going into the trash. So it wasn't worth it. And tires were starting to drop off. So yeah, I have to stay consistent, calm. That's it.
And you did it really well. You managed an excellent race and an excellent P3. So hopefully you can keep up this form for the next few races.
Yeah, hopefully. Thank you.
Sheldon, placing third for the first time. Do you feel more pressured now, continuing the last half of the championship?
Well, I want to, you know, I want to get good results now after those DNFs I had. It was quite. I didn't expect those DNFs, but yeah, it happens. You know, that's racing. You have to keep positive always, and you'll get the results like that.
Amazing words. Kieran and Nicholas, would you like to add anything to that?
I mean, I will say, that was, as Simon said, a very, very intense battle for Sheldon Scott Muscat. He made that look easy, didn't he, Nico? But I can assure you it wasn't. I mean, the one question I would ask is, how do you keep that up for half an hour? I think, unfortunately, we've lost Sheldon Scott Muscat. He's got off to celebrate. So I'll ask you instead, Nico, how on earth do you keep that up for half an hour?
Oh, yeah, that's really, really quite difficult, to be honest, to always be on edge and to just always be placing the car completely in the right position. So, yeah, I think, honestly, it's all about, just staying in the right mindset the entire time, always focusing on what's ahead of you, but also, what could be wrong. And, I mean, while it's not too healthy to only focus on the potential mistakes, it helps you stay aware, it helps you stay awake, so to say, simply because you can very quickly fall into a sort of routine as well. So, yeah, it's a very big mix of different things that you have to take care of.
Yes, absolutely. And, well, I have to say, just doing half an hour, pretty much a sprint race with 6 cars, shouting over it, wore me out. And, just seeing Sheldon Scott Muscat there, standing there saying it was demanding, it was physical, and, you could see it. He worked hard for that 3rd place. He was for a long time in that battle at the back of it in 4th place when Dean Vella managed to sneak a move whilst the Muscats were battling away, and he managed to get back into 3rd. So the race had a little bit of everything.
Yeah, absolutely did. And I think in the end, it all comes down to, how consistent everyone could be. And the king of it all was Kirsten Nevaeh. And even with that moment that he had in the middle of the 2 parts of Big Bend, perfectly opening the steering a little bit, letting the car slide a bit to the inside, not overcorrecting or anything, placing the car perfectly to keep Jason Muscat behind, and yeah, just absolutely fantastic work from him.
Oh, absolutely, and thoroughly deserves that P3, picking up the pieces as well to make sure he got that podium. And, in the last 4 minutes, Jason Muscat seemed to just slightly start fading. How much of that would be down to tyre wear there, Nico?
I think especially when you're constantly attacking and then also have to switch from attacking to defending from time to time again and again. Really, really difficult, of course, to, completely get that sorted. And I think pretty much like 10 minutes to go, he tried to keep attacking. And overall, I think Abaya was also still under a lot of pressure back then. But at some point, the tires are just completely done. The tires just continue to overheat, and well, if you can't really take a break from that because you have 2 other guys right behind you who are very, very eager to overtake, you can basically just fight on against the overheating, which will, well, cause even more overheating. So a bit of a vicious circle there.
Yeah, it sounds a bit of a vicious circle. The more heat you add, the more heat gets added, which adds more heat, which adds more heat. Yeah, it sounds terrifying.
I'll fight this fire with fire.
That'll work. That'll do it. Well, let's head back to Malta at the World Pro Racing Simulation Centre, where we've now got Dean Vella to chat to.
Joining us now is Dean Vella for the first time, who placed 2nd. Dean, how are you feeling with those results?
Yeah, I've been waiting to get on the podium for quite a bit now. I was in the first 4 rounds, 3 rounds actually. I placed P4 just a bit before the podium, so quite happy and a bit of a relief to be here finally.
You had a good race, and in the end you were running, I think, 4th and got into 3rd and then 2nd through mistakes. How happy you are that you managed to get to that position and challenge for the lead in the final few laps?
Yeah, the pace was definitely there. I felt like quite fast throughout the whole race, especially race pace-wise with race fuel. But yeah, I think the 2 moves I had to execute were mainly a fault of other drivers, but I still managed to execute them as well as I could have to get those positions.
I doubt you mind though. Their positions, they're more points.
Yeah, exactly, more or less.
So I think now we have a couple of questions from the commentators.
I've got a burning one. Half an hour, intense racing like that, finally getting 2nd place the last few minutes. How do you sum that up, Dean? That must have been so exhausting for you.
Yeah, mentally, you have to stay focused all the time. You can't do one single mistake. As you saw, when the other guys made mistakes, they paid for it. So yeah, it's quite exhausting mentally.
Well, second place is a very good position, especially if it's your first time. We look forward to continue seeing you perform. Good luck for the rest of the rounds.
And a massive congratulations as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. Back to you, Kieran Nicholas.
Thank you, Yaz. And yeah, pretty happy Dean Vella there. I mean, he started, well, he was about 5 minutes towards the end in 4th place, 3rd place, and then managed to grab 2nd place in the dying few minutes, and it only gave him a limited opportunity to try and grab the race victory. It's, you know, with minutes to go at a short track like that, with not many overtaking opportunities, it was always going to be a challenge for him to win the race. But he looks pretty happy with 2nd at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it doesn't always have to be a win, you know. 2nd place, podium is always still very welcome. Of course, you know, you get a lot of points from it, and quite honestly, even though he said, you know, all the moves I gained, all the positions I gained, it was from mistakes of other people. But that's the thing, you know, they slipped up, he didn't, and he profited from it. So it's the essence of racing, you know, force others into mistakes and profit from it. And in this case, you know, he stayed consistent, he stayed strong, he stayed error-free. Fantastic drive from him. So nothing to you know, be even like remotely like well, sort of like mellowed down about just because, you know, other people made mistakes.
And as you were saying, Nico, it's all about keeping your concentration, keeping your mistakes to a minimum at a track that really punishes if you run wide. There's no runoff areas, it's just grass, and the only place there is tarmac, there's, you know, a tyre barrier right at the entrance of the uphill. So a track that punishes mistakes severely. So you've got to keep your momentum going. And as you rightfully said, it was all about who made the fewest mistakes. And today, it was Kirsten Abea.
Absolutely. And yeah, what can I say other than he stayed clear in that entire start chaos when Mikael Mejia just randomly, just out of nowhere, came 3 wide between him and Jason Scott Muscat. So absolutely great attack from Mikael Mejia there. But honestly, Kirsten Abea for staying calm there, staying around the outside, and especially around the outside at the Big Bend. We saw so many times in the race how difficult it is to even stay alongside through that and not get into the grass, you know. So really, he kept cool at the start. He kept cool even when his tires were glowing, and you know, he kept cool when he had 3 different drivers breathing down his neck. So
not easy at all. Not easy at all. He put in a stupendous drive today. I mean, you know, driving like that for half an hour is exhausting in itself. Having to constantly look in your mirrors, seeing and judging whether you're going to defend into the next corner or whether you've got the racing line, it must all just be so mentally taxing as well. I've got good news though. We're about to find out how he found that race. So let's head back to Malta for an interview then with our race winner.
Joining us now is our race winner, Kirsten. How are you?
I'm feeling very good.
I can imagine. Big well done from us. Thank you for joining us. I would just like to ask, in our first interview that we did, you had mentioned your father. Now that you placed first for the first time, how do you think he's feeling right now?
Pretty pleased, I guess. It's been a long way and a long of practice and races to finally be here, and I dedicate this to him.
He must be very proud of you.
That's a very sweet sentiment. Obviously, your first win in this championship. Massive congratulations. You defended so well. What's it like having to keep someone behind for that long when they're that close and making so many moves?
Well, it was very intense all the way from the first lap till the end. Was immense pressure. You in the race, you are very zoned in the race, so you don't think if you look at him and it's really close, you try to defend. It's goal in milliseconds of it, so it's I have no words.
I'm sure. You managed to place your car exactly where you needed to, especially in one situation. Jason Muscat dived down the inside into turn 1, and you just managed to slice back in, take the position back, and keep it for the rest of the race. What was that like? How quick do you have? Are you thinking when you make a move like that, or is it all instinct?
It's built in you. I don't know how to explain it, but I knew he was coming, and he tried the dive bomb. So I braked a little bit further back. So I saw him slide out, and so I cut in the inside. That was my only move and thought at the moment.
Fair enough. Well, it was an excellent move and an excellent race. and massive congratulations. We hope to see more of you in the future.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well done from my side as well. We're all very impressed with your performance tonight. To the commentators, would you like to add something to Kieran's performance?
Oh, absolutely. And Kirsten there just showing us what it means is, you know, dedicating that win to his dad. Oh, so proud of him there. So you can see how much it meant to him as he crossed the line there, Nico. Just the thoughts and finally winning that race at the halfway point in the season, having been worked to your core for half an hour. It's a sense of relief, it's a sense of joy, and you could see it all in the emotion there. Just fantastic to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. I also liked his reply, you know, it's just built in you. I'd say, you know, quite similar to one Ayrton Senna, you know, with that response. But really, that was pretty much just fantastic racing instinct there, you know. Could have tried to block it and stay alongside, but at that point I don't think he could have actually made it along the way. So went for the best way, over and under, and what a beautiful over and under it was.
What a beautiful over and under it was, and he worked so hard for that as well. Getting your first race win, I mean, he had the pace, he got the pole as well. I mean, pole victory, not sure about fastest lap. It could have been anyone getting the fastest lap, in all honesty. We just have no idea, but 2 out of 3 at least ain't bad.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you don't really need the Grand Slam all the time. Of course, it's nice to get one, but I think just the win here, you know, the pole position already coming in the last moments and just setting yourself apart while people were thousands apart, and Kirsten Abeja just, well, demoralizes everyone in the last couple of moments. And, you know, then holds on to a very chaotic start, keeps it ahead, and then also, you know, just holds on and defends for 30 minutes at Lime Rock Park. I mean, every single lap of this was an outstanding performance from him, so absolutely fantastic work from him.
Absolutely, indeed. And I wonder, Nico, if you've got one question for Kirsten, because I stole Dean Vellor. I think it's fair that you get the one question to Kirsten Abeja if he's still there. We'll just have to wait and see. But, yeah, go ahead. I mean, what would your question be?
Well, okay.
Quick,
I'm,
Nico,
sorry
quick,
I'm sorry for the colloquial, but how do you fit in the car with balls this size? That was absolutely amazing.
I don't know. Bit.
What a question, Nicholas. Would you like to ask a more appropriate?
Not really, because honestly, it was just beyond me. Completely error-free. That tiniest slip-up that he had, you know, completely on the grass and sideways, and I can only say my absolute utmost congratulations. That was a fantastic drive, Kirsten.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Well, trust Nico to have the one question to the race winner, and he asks a question like that. Good old Nico, never change, never change. Well, it's been fantastic so far. We've got one more chance and one more time to the World Pro Racing Simulation Centre, where I believe we'll be having a chat to Justin Missard and Adrian Figallo. Until then, Nico, it's time for us to fill a little bit. I mean, the top 3, the top 4, and at one point the top 6 all put on a fantastic show. Can we do it again next week? I mean, we can't because that's not in the schedule, but I want it to be.
Yeah, you know, even though we're going to a different track, I think we can still have a great race again. And, you know, quite honestly, we had very close battles on all tracks so far. So, well, let's see for next week. Let's see how it overall goes. And time can only tell, so...
Yes, absolutely. And we have a little bit of a break now, because we all need it after that race, when we head to the Botnia Ring on the 21st of August. So write it down in your diaries. If you're watching us on the Esports Television Network, Motorsport TV, TVM Sport, write it down in your diaries. That's where we're going next. We're going to Finland to have a race there. Not something you get to say normally in motorsport, but we get to say it today. And of course, if you're watching us on Facebook, on Twitch and on YouTube, make sure you do the usual, the follows, the subscription, the likes. Make sure you don't miss another World Pro Racing stream again, because you missed a belter if you're only just tuning in now. It's been fantastic to watch, and all we can say is long may it continue for the second half of the season. Nico, as we head into that second half of the season, I mean, you must have been in, you know, a championship battle. You must have been a driver in a halfway point in the season. How do you go into the next part, how much of that is a reflection on what happened so far, and how much of it is preparing for the season ahead?
Well, I mean, I'm basically doing that in the middle now with the SimRid World Cup in ACC going on. But basically, you just have to try and look where you are, look where your opponents are, and, well, you have to get into the second half now with the mindset, you know, not necessarily win, but you always have to just try and beat your opponents. That's the main priority here. And, you know, while a race win, of course, is desirable, and, you know, if you have the pace to do it, if you get along with the track, if you get along with the car, never wrong to push for the win. But the main priority, of course, is to beat your primary opponents, to try and go up in the standings as far as possible, or to keep your position in case you're leading. And, of course, it's quite difficult to always calculate that into it, but quite honestly, last weekend, you know, after Estoril, no one would have thought the race here at Lime Rock Park would play out like this. Because Mikael Machia had such a dominating performance, and this time now, you know, that really proved to be, his Achilles heel being shot in the first lap, basically. And that cost him quite dear points, so we never know how it's going to play out for the rest of these 8 races, of which are 4 left now.
4 to go as well, obviously, as we head in towards the last few rounds. Remember, the finale is an hour-long race. We'll get to that very, very shortly. I'm sure it will fly by with the races we've been having so far. And for one last time, let's head back to Malta and the World Pro Racing Simulation Centre one last time with Yaz.
Joining us now is our CEO and CFO, Justin and Adrian. How are we feeling tonight? The results were amazing. Everyone was on their toes. Any comments?
Positions. We had Kirsten
Yeah,
first today.
Exactly.
Quite an exciting one.
It was a nice race, actually, very close battles, and obviously enough. We had a red flag in the beginning, but that's fine. Sometimes it happens. Not so often with us, but anyway. But otherwise, yes, it was an exciting race, very close battling, so I enjoyed it.
Well,
And we have
halfway through, we're getting closer to the winner. I already asked Simon and Davinia who they think is going to be our champion. Can I get your feedback?
This is a bit hard for Adrian, especially because I'm not monitoring the race or giving penalties. I'm just directing the broadcast along with Nathan, who wants me to shout out for him because I didn't do last weekend. You see, I did it now. I said it.
Hi, Nathan.
Nathan. I mean, it's a hard decision for Adrian to give penalties and stuff like that, but you know, and it's of course it's not something that but we can give an opinion about the progress, for example, that drivers are doing. For example, those there were interviews before, Rizzo and Colin Foster, who always keep pushing to try and do their best.
Exactly.
Kirsten, who did a huge improvement since last rounds, even though last time Kirsten was in front, and I remember, I think he spun, or if I remember correctly.
He did a mistake.
And this time he kept the car on track and led him to the finish.
Actually, it was like seeing the top 4 runners, let's put it this way, the consistency throughout the race. They were like, the gaps were very quite even throughout the race, you know what I mean? They raced clean. There was an overtake by Jason on Kirsten, and Kirsten took back the position in the same corner. So, yes, exciting. Good level of driving between the drivers. Unfortunately, today, as we saw, Jason also did a mistake and just lost 2 positions like this. But that's part of racing.
No, I'm thinking, of course, I was not the people behind the broadcast, do not watch the race completely. You know what the mayhem going on behind the scenes. But this is something that we're pushing as well, pro racing. To the drivers, by consistency, pushing them in, going into a studio to discuss or whatever it is, to put them on the spotlight, to even for scouting or any other opportunities that might happen in the future. So this is something that we're pushing as well, pro racing, in our facility, to train young and upcoming drivers to continue furthering their knowledge, their career in esports.
Exactly.
There's an announcement to make.
Yeah, unfortunately, not a very nice announcement actually today. FIA just announced that unfortunately the FIA games for this year yet again got cancelled. It's not a nice, obviously, decision, but unfortunately to go with it, this decision has to be taken by FIA. obviously enough, it came up to us this afternoon. We're in discussions with the local federation, obviously enough, so see what obviously now the price for the national winner will be. He's still a national champion. Whoever wins this championship will be a national champion for the esports section of the federation for 2021.
Working on a solution from our side, including
Yes,
federation as well. So we're doing our best to make this replacement as the best as possible. As Adrian said, it's not from our side, unfortunately. It's COVID's fault.
COVID.
So yeah, I mean, let's keep this in a positive way.
Yeah.
These things happen. I think knowing what happened during COVID, I mean, missing an event is not the biggest deal, as in compared to what happened throughout COVID, you know. So, but we always work on something else to replace this, and for the winner, as you said, it's still a national champion. But still, yes, we're doing our best to provide a replacement to that.
Well, in my opinion, I think everyone is a winner, especially
Exactly.
every week. We're seeing everyone improve. We had some new faces joining us in the studio right now. So I don't think it really matters. Obviously, it's very unfortunate news. But yeah, very sad to hear.
Yeah, but I mean, we keep it positive, as we said. We're always improving, both the drivers, everybody here, the team, we, ourselves, you, yes, everybody. So this is a huge, big thanks to all the people involved behind the scenes. Nathan, I tell you again, I mention you again, just in case you didn't hear me, was the broadcast director today. George was stewarding with Adrian, race director, and taking photos behind the scenes. Davinia and Simon, they're both coming from university. There's Kane also as well. Unfortunately, Neil couldn't come over from university. There's Omar as well. Nathan Vella taking care of the control room of the simulation. And everybody else. Sorry, I forgot anyone? No.
I don't think
I
so.
mean, this is why we came to this point of success with all the help of everybody, not me, Adrian, and George only, but everybody. So with one collaborative effort, we did it. We continue doing it for the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
So shall we call it a night?
Yeah, I mean, back to Nico. They are still here, I think, or they
Yes.
slept.
Thank you for waiting for us. Back to you.
Thank you, Yaz. And yeah, obviously, very sad news coming out of Malta for the FIA, obviously for the worldwide FIA Motorsport Games. But I'm sure a suitable prize will be organised in due course for the race winner, or the series winner, I should say. And for the rest of the season then, Nico, we're going to be a bit on our toes. We've seen two dominating performances from Michael Murcia, but then when we've come to a track where overtaking is limited, we're getting sub 46-second lap times in qualifying, it really did start to bunch up, and it really did show us that these drivers can really battle.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, especially with these more narrow tracks, normally you don't have as much racing, I'd say. But here it just did the opposite. So, you know, these guys, well, much like racing drivers tend to do, you know, they defy all means of logic. And they're just here to race, man. I mean, and that's what they did, so...
And they put on a show whilst doing it. That's also a bonus as well. Well, we have got a little bit of a break. As I said, 21st of August, we'll be back at the Botnia Ring in Finland, where we do it all over again, and we get into the second half of the season. For now, though, the drivers get a little bit of a break. The team down at World Pro Racing also get a little bit of a break as well, as I think after that race alone, I think it's warranted. Nico, it's been a pleasure as always to commentate alongside you, and a bar of soaps in the post for you. Hopefully, I'll be with you very, very soon. But I mean, it's been a fantastic day, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a fantastic race. A very thrilling qualifying session. I'd say, you know, that alone is quite a lot more. Has been quite a lot more exciting than certain other real racing series, which I'll not mention right now. But yeah, if there's more of that in the post somewhere, I'd love to see it.
Absolutely, and hopefully you will join us for that as well. That'll do it then for the Malta National GT3 Championship, fueled by NMED and brought to you in association with the Malta Motorsport Federation. A big thank you to our sponsors in Gaming Malta, 3CX and Vibe, and wherever you've been watching us, whether it's on the Esports Television Network, Motorsport TV and TVM Sport. It's been a pleasure to bring you the action here. We're next live on the 21st of August, and if you're watching us on Facebook, on Twitch and on YouTube, make sure you like, subscribe and follow on all the platforms there, all the respective platforms, so you get notified when we go live, when we head to Finland on the 21st of August. So it's all to play for then in the second half of the season. We've had half the races so far, won by Mikael Murcia, but whenever he's faltered, there have been two different drivers that have picked up the pieces. I can't wait to see how the rest of the season unfolds. From myself, Kieran McGinley, and from Nicholas Hillebrand, it's been a pleasure to bring this race to you. A big thank you to our broadcast director for tonight in Nathan Misford, and also Justin Mifsud running the scene behind the scenes there in Malta. A big thank you as well to Adrian Figallo and George Muscat, who are our FIA accredited stewards for tonight's proceedings. They had a very quiet evening, all things considered, just that one incident at the very start of the race. And a big thank you as well, and a big well done to Yaz, Simon and Davinia, smashing it as always there over in Malta, and we hope to see you again very, very soon. From myself, Kieran McGinley, and Nico Hillebrand, it's been a pleasure. And wherever you're watching tonight, take care of yourselves, and we'll see you again on World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
L-ewwel ħaġa bħala Gaming Malta l-esports huwa settur importanti ħafna għalina. Meta nħarsu lejn gaming ma nitkellmux biss fuq l-online gaming, imma il-video gaming u anki l-esports. L-esports huwa settur li internazzjonalment qed jikber ħafna u Malta għandha rol importanti wkoll x'tilab f'dan is-settur. Coming back to home, il-World Pro Racing hija kumpanija li dit mill-Maltin u qed tagħmel suċċess internazzjonali. Ġifieri Malta għalija hija pedina għal l-ambizzjonijiet tagħhom fuq pjan internazzjonali.
L-ewwel rrid insir Formula 1 driver u ngħaddi lil Lewis Hamilton bir-rekord tiegħu. U mbagħad wara rrid insir inġinier.
Mela, t-tifel huwa professional driver diġà tal-go-karts, tella barra minn Malta nkajsu u training u hekk allura bejn telliqa oħra meta ma jkunux jistgħu jiċċessaw it-trek huwa tajjeb li jiġi hawnhekk jitrejnja hija simulator bħal go-kart qiegħed isuq ġol l-istess trakka li jsuqgħu Malta lura jkun qiegħed training minflok qiegħed ġa trakka stess. Għandu l-coach tiegħu tas-CRG stess, jgħalmu jagħtu ħtiebs barra minn Malta l-istess ħaġa kalmuhom kif iduru mal-kantunieri, race line, il-ħinijiet x'in jafsu l-gass, il-break. Hija teknika ħafna l-ħaġa, ġifieri kapaċi ħafna iktar minn it-tifel. Huwa post fejn jista' jiżvoga. Meta jmorru ġa trakku ma stess jgħidulek aħna nofsuna żvogajna flaxej ħossuhom tranquilli għax ineħħu l-istress tal-ġurnata, l-istress tal-iskola, kollox. Plus li huwa sport sabiħ għalihom li jitrejnjaw. It-tifel trabba ġol karozzi, allura għalih hija passjoni. Dan iċ-ċentru għalih huwa post fejn jista' jiżvoga jkunu. Għal dawk il-parents forsi li jibżaw jgħidulek għax huwa perikolus. Hawnhekk m'hawnx periklu. Qegħdin protetti, ġobini, it-tfal jaraw x'iridu. Jekk ma jibdewx issa minn ta' żgħira xorta jibdew meta jkunu kbar, so ma jteżwelithom l-opportunitajiet kollha li tkun tista' tihom meta jkunu żgħar.
Jien ma' World Pro Racing naħdem bħala replay person u nsuq mat-tim ukoll. Main task jien normalment nagħmel nieħu ħsieb li l-computers kollha din jaħdmu, nieħu ħsieb li l-komunità għandna platform online li kollox qed immur sew anke nikkomunikaw ma' drivers. U wara l-events nikteb l-artikli nipublikawhom fuq il-website. Jien as such bdejt bħal kull student naqa' technical know-hows, imbagħad ovvjament through time bdejt nitgħallem kif ċertu pereżempju broadcasts, ċertu affarijiet, ċertu preparations li jsiru qabel. Dik regarding World Pro Racing, anke bħala sim racing, bdejt jien bħala e-sport jiġifieri aktar fuq computer, mbagħad bdejt bil-mod nibni bħala steerings u hekk tracks tibda bil-mod kollox pass pass as such.
Office without limits. slash your telco costs. Boost agent productivity and customer service. Web conferencing for all. Never miss a call. CX, everywhere you go, on premise or in the cloud. 3cx.com.
aħna saħħalsulhom il-fuel. Ara ġej.
Wara ftit ġranet kellna rebbieħ ieħor fil-logħba tagħna kontra 30 sekonda bil-maqlub. Suqu fuq ir-riserva xejdu le mhix se tieqa'.
Il-ġimgħa d-dieħla nkunu fuq pompa tal-NMD oħra nagħtu xi ħaġa oħra.
Senna was a god. No one could even dream to follow him.
I'm from a very humble background.
The role of women at that time were really difficult.
This is so dangerous. You are risking not only your life, but also my life.
Okay, we proceed to the start.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.